At this time, I'll call our December Board of Commissioners meeting to order. I'll ask that you stand for the invocation and the pledge. The invocation will be led by Commissioner Langley and the pledge by Commissioner Rebholz.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, we are grateful and thankful for the opportunity to serve your people. We are especially grateful now in this Yuletide season that you sent your love down during this season. So, Father, touch our hearts and minds that we will make wise and prudent decisions concerning the business of your people. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I will ask that if you have a cell phone, please turn it completely off, or at least put it in the mute, or otherwise face a $25 fine. Okay, we're down to item number D, the approval of the agenda. We've got one change. Jim has removed item number 2 under the health department because he did not receive information from the state. Is that correct, Jim? Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second. Motion and a second.
Mr. Chairman, I would
Yes.
also like to remove one item I was bringing forward, the item involving the Bruce Gray incident.
Okay, you want to remove that?
I'd like to remove it this
Yes.
time.
Okay.
I may bring it up later at a different meeting.
Okay. Any other changes? The person that made the motion and second. Are you in favor of removing that? Okay. All right. All those in favor of the agenda, raise your right hand. Thank you. We're down now to the board organization. So, Kitty, I'll turn it over to you.
Yes, sir. Each year, you as a board are brought forward to elect a chairman and a vice chairman, and at this time, I'll take nominations for chairman.
I nominate Frankie Waters for chairman.
I nominate Stan Deathridge for chairman.
Are there any others?
Move the nomination closed.
All those in favor for Commissioner Waters, please raise your hand. All those for Commissioner Deathridge. Chairman Waters, it appears that you are chairman for 2022. We can move on to vice chairman.
Madam Clerk,
Yes, sir.
I nominate Jerry Langley.
Any other nominations?
Madam Clerk,
Yes.
I nominate Randy Walker.
All those for Commissioner Langley, please raise your hand. All those for Commissioner Walker. Chairman Waters, you can set the seats now if you choose to change them.
There'll be no change in the seat order. We're down to item number F under public comments. Patricia.
Good evening. Tonight I want to just make the public aware. The number of homeless veterans in our country is climbing. This is a national disgrace. We allow illegals to come into our country, and they're housed in 5-star hotels. Well, we have veterans living on the street. That is a moral outrage. I've talked with some of the commissioners, and they are interested in this issue, and they're willing to look into it. So I'm asking them to do that. There are approximately 45 homeless veterans that was counted about 2 years ago prior to this COVID pandemic. There are a number of states in the country that are using their COVID money to provide housing for homeless veterans. In fact, Asheville has done a tremendous job with building a community of tiny houses for homeless veterans in their area. Not only are there public entities that are working on this issue, but there are private and public entities that are joining together. So I'm asking that the county commissioners investigate this issue, possibly plan with Pitt County, since they are the ones that provide services to veterans, that possibly we could join together and provide housing for homeless veterans in our area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Legislative updates, Representative Kidwell is doing a, what's the term I'm trying to come up with, Panama. That's an income.
I cut it off though, the way it works.
What was that?
You said $25, it came up.
Yes. Yeah.
I put it on, took it off, but it worked.
Okay, so he is not here and our other representative is not in the room. We're down to items for consent. Is there any item that you would like to remove for discussion?
I would like to remove item number 1, work for selecting county plan for 2023-2026. Just want to discuss it.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the other 13 items under consent?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you. We're down to our health department.
I'm sorry. My mic was not on. Come on up.
When will the item that was removed go up for discussion?
It's under Melanie. We'll probably move it in maybe right after Jen. That way she will be able to leave, if that's okay with everyone. Okay, Jim?
Great. Good evening, everybody. Hope y'all are doing well. So let's see. COVID update. Day 623 since our first case. So it's been a while. I know y'all probably getting tired of seeing me up here. So in North Carolina, we're at 1.54 million cases. And the thing to point out is that after that second hump, you can see that we're starting to get a little bit of increase in the state. And in Beaufort County, you can see that we have that same little bump that's occurring there at the end. So about 2 weeks ago, we were at 5 cases per day on as an average, and today we're at 14.7. So it's gone up quite a bit, 3 times higher in the last week or so. So I think that the reason is because the holidays, people got together, probably were spreading it that way. And then I think what we're going to find is COVID has a seasonal influence as well, kind of like the flu during the winter, colder days. People get together, circulation in the house is a lot more closed up. So I think we're going to see basically what I would call a seasonal bump here. And hopefully it'll just be a bump and not something major like what we saw a couple months ago. We are at a total of 7,657 cases that we've documented since the pandemic started. And remind y'all that we probably have about 3,000 or 4,000 other people out there that have contracted COVID but didn't get tested, and so we don't know about them. 4.3% of those that we do know about were hospitalized, and 1.8% died. Right now we have 7 in the hospital and about 142 active cases, and approximately 14% of our active cases are breakthrough cases. This goes to show how we compare to the rest of the state. This is over a 2-week period. You can see that we're kind of in the lower percentile or quartile. And then you can see that the north central part of the state has got a large dark spot where, so they're really hot there at this time. So I do expect that to come more towards us as time goes by. Again, related, those are in the mountains, so it's probably cooler up here already. So it's just speculation, but I think that's what's going to happen. These are the deaths that we've had so far, 134 deaths that we recorded that I've looked at their death certificates. I have 3 more I'm trying to follow. One of them is the first one in December, who passed not too long ago, a couple of days ago. The first 91 cases that we had, the average age was 77.6. The last 43 cases that we've had, the age is 69.5. So that's about 8 years difference. I think that has a lot to do with the vaccine. The elder population did get a lot of the vaccines. A higher percentage of the elderly population is vaccinated, and therefore that drives the average age down. I'm going to stop for a second on COVID and just let y'all know about the flu. These are your flu numbers, and you can see that the flu has started to show up in the state. This is all from the hospitals in North Carolina, so you can see that there's been a big jump over the last couple of weeks. Just to remind everybody the flu's coming, and just like with COVID, we want you to be cautious. So I imagine everybody's thinking about Omicron or talked about Omicron at some time, and so I wanted to make sure that y'all were aware of what I'm tracking on this. It is a variant that's come out recently. There are a lot of mutations that are different on it. There's over 30 of them that are on the spike protein. If you remember last month, I showed y'all the spike protein and the nucleocuspids and how the differences were. So that spike protein has got a lot of changes that are occurring in it. So that's kind of unusual, different from Delta. So it is considered a variant of concern. It was a variant of interest. Now it's a variant of concern. And what we don't want to get to is a variant of extreme concern. It has replaced the Delta variant in South Africa, which could be because Delta variant is got a lot of immunity in it, and therefore the Omicron has an advantage in growing, or it could be the Omicron is more competitive than Delta. So it's going to be one of those two situations. I think it's going to be the first one. And then we do expect to see some in North Carolina in the next day or weeks. So I was telling you about the variant difference. So if you take the original COVID virus and break out its genetics, sequencing, and you look at the Delta one, you can see the redness and the orange in there shows the variations that made it Delta versus made it the normal COVID. Now on the other side, on the right-hand side, you can see the Omicron variants, and you see it's much more red, much more orange. So it means a lot more changes in that particular variant. So there's still a lot of unknowns about Omicron. And these are the states that have already sequenced Omicron at this point. So over the last week, this graph has been put together. You see North Carolina has not had one case yet, but it's probably in North Carolina. They just haven't sequenced it yet. So does Omicron spread easily? It's likely that it spreads more quickly than the original does, but whether it's more contagious than the Delta variant, we're not sure of. It's probably not going to be much more than the Delta variant was if it is very contagious. Does it cause severe illness? That data is not really known. It hasn't been tested. It's thought that if the severity should not be any more than other variants have been, so very similar to them. The vaccine does look like it's probably going to work, or it's expected to work, at least for decreasing severity. It may not stop all the spread, just like the Delta variant can be spread by somebody with the vaccine. Usually the case or how sick you are is much less. So it's expected to be true with Omicron as well. And will the treatments work? This is one of those tricky things with immunity. Certain treatments are going to work, like steroid treatments. You know, when they put you in the hospital and they give you steroids, that's probably going to work. However, the monoclonal antibodies may not work as well, because the monoclonal antibodies were geared towards the original one and the Delta variant. And so there might be enough change where they'll have to wait for enough monoclonal antibodies with the structure that we're talking about. But that's unknown. It's all just speculation. So I wanted to take a minute to talk about endemic. Y'all have heard the word pandemic, and everybody knows like what epidemic means. But endemic is a different word, which means kind of your baseline of a disease in an area. So malaria is not really endemic to North Carolina. So, you know, we don't see those cases. We do see, the flu comes through and it's got an endemic presence. Even though it's going up, it's kind of like expected to go up during the same time period. So an endemic condition is when a disease is always going to be around, or unless it gets eradicated somehow, like smallpox has been eradicated. I'm introducing the word because we're at a point where COVID is basically going to be endemic in the United States and in North Carolina. So it's something that we end up having to learn to live with. So there's going to be a lot of questions about the future in this and how we're going to deal with it. And as those changes occur, I want y'all to know that I'm kind of watching that and trying to make sure that we're not just changing as we become used to it as a disease in our community, but it's still something that we need to protect ourselves from. So there's still going to be a lot of public health effort to try to help prevent the spread of COVID. But there's going to become a time when we're going to have to learn to live with it. And there's going to be different for everybody and how that's going to look. But I'm trying to prepare everybody that eventually we're going to get to that point. Okay. So as far as testing goes, we did 700 tests last week, which is twice as much as we did the week before. So what that tells me is there's a lot of people that were worried about it and wanted to get tested, or there's a lot of people that were sick and went out and got tested. And again, that makes sense since we had that spike that occurred last week anyway. At the same time, about 8.5% of the tests that we did last week were positive, and that's up from 4 to 6% a couple weeks before that. So another indication that there's some community spread going on, higher community spread than it was before. So our test sites have not changed. We still do that at the health department from 7:30 to 11, and we do that at Hackney, 810 Hackney Avenue, 8 to 5 every day. So if you need to go get tested anytime, the Hackney site is open pretty much during the workday. This is the vaccination demand. The red is the new people starting the vaccine, and the orange would be people that are receiving their second dose. Boosters, I'm not tracking boosters yet because the state doesn't report it, so I don't know, how many are being done. The health department is, we did 1,000 2 weeks ago, and 1,000 2 weeks before that. We only did about 400 or 500 last week, so the demand's starting to go down for the boosters. But there's a lot of places out there to get the boosters, and I'm sure a lot of people are getting it from CVS and Walmart and their doctor's offices. But unlike the first and second dose, I'm not getting any of that data right now from the state, so I don't know how many people are getting boosters. But as far as the first and second dose vaccination rates, 52% of our population right now is fully vaccinated. 90% of those that are 65 and older have been vaccinated completely. 62% of adults, a quarter of the children 12 to 17 have been vaccinated. And at this point now, 5 to 11-year-old, 1.3% fully vaccinated. We've had about 158 that have been partially vaccinated in the 5 to 11-year-old age group. So as far as getting the vaccines, we were doing the pods, the mass booster vaccinations out at the community college. Some of y'all went through and saw that operation, how that was happening. But because the demand has gotten down, we're going to start running it back through the health department, through that drive-through building in the back. So on Mondays, you can get your first shots, and on Tuesdays, you can get your second shots. And then on Thursday or Friday, you would get a booster if you want one. So there's all by appointment. So go online or call us and we'll set up an appointment. And then we're also going to be doing flu shots Wednesdays out of that same place, same time. Don't need an appointment for flu shots. And I don't think we're operating next Wednesday because we had a shortage of staff, but every Wednesday other than that.
Go ahead, Commissioner Booth.
Jim, I noticed that the only place that you're doing testing now is in the city of Washington. Mm-hmm. What happened to those outlying areas, the south side and the northeastern part of the county? Why we're not doing them there?
They're being done by the providers in the area. So if you think there's a need for us to go out there, then we'll have to set up something.
The reason I asked is because the bulk of your people live out in that area. I mean, there are only 9,000 people live in the city of Washington. You're on 1,300 last week. And I was wondering why on the south side or the northeastern part of the county, we didn't have a setup for those people. And maybe it's
just, yeah, when we did have it down there, the need was so low. We were only getting like 5 per week that were coming through. So we moved it back, and depending on the Chocowinity medical sites and the Aurora Vidant area to do them.
In Belhaven, you have O'Neill's and Walgreens. I think both of them are doing it.
And the multi-specialty clinic.
Yes.
Is doing awesome.
Walgreens and O'Neill's too.
Yeah. But you, other questions? Yes, Commissioner Richards.
Well, I don't want to say that this is not a dangerous disease because I was in the top risk group because of my age. And I certainly have friends who have succumbed to the disease and other people that I know. The rate, the death rate on this has been very, very low and doesn't support all of the extreme measures that were taken to fight the thing. With that in mind, I heard today NPR radio, National Public Radio, is reporting that the death rate is much higher in counties that are conservative than in liberal counties. Do you have any comment on that?
Well, I didn't know that until you told me it, so I did look it up. And I think that the report was that if they had 60% or higher voting conservative at the last election, that they had higher rates of death.
That's true.
Right, that's true.
So conservatives are at risk.
Well, I don't know if it's being a conservative or if it's age, because, some conservatism goes up as you get older. So it could be that. It could be the vaccine. The conservatives tend not to have as high vaccination rates as the more liberal person.
Thank you.
Any other question?
I got a question in that same vein. Now that, we were talking about vaccine mandates, and you may be forced to adjust your parameters of how you deal with your personnel, and you may force them to have be vaccinated. Some may be unvaccinated still. Again, I support vaccination if that's what somebody wants to do. However, now that OSHA, and I think the county is administered by OSHA, OSHA's mandates have presumed to be unconstitutional. And they will not be able to mandate through OSHA that government employees take the vaccine. What's going to be the county's position on that?
Well, I'm the health director. I guess that would be up to what's the county's position?
Yeah, it may be up to us.
Well, I don't know. I guess it's up to the legislators.
If OSHA's not really going to be able to make an assessment.
I know that the OSHA rule and the CMS rule, there are two different rules that came down. One is geared towards people that are receiving Medicaid funding, Medicaid or Medicare funding. The OSHA is if you're an employment with over 100 people. So I know what you're talking about. And I know that the Sixth Circuit Court has put a stop on that until they review it or whatever they do. I don't know where that's going to go, but I'm not mandating it for anybody. I'm just making it available to people that need it or want it. That's my position, but I guess the county has to follow, county would have to follow OSHA laws and stuff, I guess.
So your position is just hold firm and tight until you know something definite.
My official position on that is, yes, you have to wait till you know something definitely, but my position as a health director is that the vaccine works, the vaccine is safe. I think you should get the vaccine.
And I tend to agree with you. However, other people have their own opinions, and they have that right in America, in this free society, to have that opinion.
Well,
and if OSHA, which is the authoritarian type decider of what happens for us, if it does remain unconstitutional, that they exerted too much authority in that regard, then the people should be able to make that decision for themselves.
I'm not the one that I guess debate that. I mean, I'm personally not.
I'm just speaking for the folks that my constituents right now. That's all.
There are other vaccines that are required, but again, that's getting into debate, and I don't think that's what you wanted to do. So.
No, just wanted to make a point.
Any other questions? If not, thank you, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Melody?
Was this item been pulled? Was his item?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I remember it when I was
Okay, Work First Elected County Plan, Commissioner Etheridge?
Yeah, we haven't really talked about that in a long, long time. I mean, it's probably been years. And if you could just give us a rundown, and maybe we could ask some questions later.
Okay. So in 2000, the 2002, 2014, 2004 years, the Beaufort County Board of Commissioners elected to become a Work First electing county. And by doing that, it allows the county to have some control over the program, the Work First program, and the options that we offer. And it also allows the county to draw down additional federal funding that would otherwise be county funding. So we have to, it started out, we were doing the plan every 2 years, and it's gone to every 3 years. So we last came in, I think it was 2017, for an update for 3 years. So this plan will cover 2023 to 2026. Over the last, I think, 7 to 8 years, the county has been able to draw down about $1.2 million in federal funding to not only help administer our Work First program, but also as years have gone on, the caseloads have dropped. Rules have dropped. We're able to use that funding for child welfare, not just Work First. We do have parenting programs. We have a prevention program, more programs that we might not have if we were a standard county.
I was a commissioner when this was first initiated back in the 90s, late 90s, and I was on that Work First planning committee. I do remember we spent a lot of time and energy trying to get this done, get it done right, and we had great success in the early days of getting people to go to work. Are folks going back to work?
They are. The rolls, not only in Beaufort County, but across the state and the country, have dropped, I would say, around 95% since this program was implemented in 1996.
Yeah.
The state is currently looking at revamping the program. The payments for this program have stayed the same since 1996, $181. They have put more funding into child care and transportation, but the rolls have dropped significantly. We have about 75 on the rolls right now, and the majority of those are what they call child-only cases, which is a grandparent or aunt, uncle taking care of a child, parents not in the home.
Is the federal government still taking an affirmative stand that work is best than not work? Because there was a time during the Obama administration when there was some talk about suspending Work First. I remember that.
I have not heard that. Yeah.
It was during that, right before the election in 2012.
I do know the state is reviewing it right now, but I do not know the outcome of that and what changes it will entail. I don't know.
Okay, but you're still getting a good many folks that are having to apply through Work First, and they're going to have to jump through all the hoops in order to get any kind of assistance. They're going to have to try to seek Work First. Now, with so many jobs open right now in Beaufort County, they should be able to find some jobs, shouldn't they?
The overwhelming majority just generally, maybe they've lost a job and come in, get assistance, so they go right back in the workforce. Maybe they need assistance with childcare. The overwhelming majority of the few, what they call single parent or two parent working, has a parent in the household, has something else going on, like maybe there's a disability and we might be working with the family to work with Social Security to apply for disability. Maybe it's someone that needs to apply for child support. We help them with that, but that is a very, very, very small part of our caseload.
Are there chronic unemployed? Are they still looking for jobs? And are they affected by Work First? You hear that there are some families where nobody's worked in years, and yet they're still able to exist in America. Do we have that going on in Beaufort County?
Not to my knowledge. Not that I know of. I just know our caseload, for me to know that it's dropped 95% in the last 25 years, people are working. I think most of the program is when people maybe lose their job, they come in briefly, get assistance. We provide assistance. They're right back in the workforce.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
At this time, I entertain a motion to approve the work plan for the years 2023 and 2026. Have a motion and a second. Any other question? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, Melanie. We're now down to the audit presentation for the year 2020 and 2021.
Yes, sir.
Anita?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have with us this evening Mr. Austin Eubanks. He's with the firm Thompson, Price, Scott, and Adams, the audit firm that performed the audit. He's the audit manager and CPA, I believe, out of the Wilmington office. Yes. And he's here to present the results of the audit. And there's a handout at your desk. It's also included in your agenda packet. So whichever slide you prefer to follow, they're exactly the same. So I'll turn it over to Austin.
Hey, how you doing? My name is Austin Eubanks. I'm the audit manager of the Wilmington office of TPSA. I am a CPA, a certified public accountant, and a certified fraud examiner. First of all, we want to thank you for the opportunity to audit Beaufort County this year. The very first couple of pages is some required communications that I have to announce. Significant audit findings, all the significant transactions have been recognized in the financial statements or in the proper period. All the accounting estimates, there was no significant estimates or assumptions noted in the audit this year. We encountered no significant difficulties in dealing with management, performing, or completing the audit. In addition, none of the misstatements detected as a result of the audit procedures are corrected by management were material. So no material corrections this year. Any disagreements with management? There was no disagreements with management during the course of the audit. We disclosed that there were identified as technical errors in our review of the Medicaid program. You can see that in the schedule of findings and questions costs in the audit report. For the description of these errors, these items have been discussed with the DSS director, and a corrective action is in place and should be addressed going further. We are pleased to discuss with no significant indicators that were required to present during audit. So we tested we had 6 single audits this year. A single audit is basically $750,000 of federal funds or $500,000 of state funds. So we had 6 separate single audits this year, and only the Medicaid audit presented any issues. Again, you can find that in the audit report. So going over some of the financial information, seen on page 4. I do want to say that this audit has not yet been approved by the state, by the LGC. Until that has been, we will release the audit. So the total fund balance, you see from 2017 to 2021. In 2017, the total fund balance of the general fund was $23 million, and that's rose every single year and to $34 million in 2021. The unavailable fund balance for the general fund, which is restricted by state statutes, inventories of prepaids. In 2017 was 5.4 million, all the way to 7.2 million this year. Restricted, committed, or assigned fund balances at $9.1 million this year. The general fund expenditures was $59 million this year, and that's about on par with every single year, all the way back to 2017. However, the fund balance available as a percentage in 2017 was 29.7%, and that rose every single year all the way to 45%. That basically means you have about right at 6 months worth of fund balance to cover expenditures, and that's pretty high for a county. So unassigned fund balance was at $24.8 million this year, and you see back in 2017 was right at 17 million, so that keeps on rising. So the trends are strong in the fund balance. General fund revenues is at $9.1 million this year, and that's significantly higher. Basically, let me find it. Revenues increased by $10 million over last year overall, and expenses increased by $4.2 million. So overall, those trends are just really, really strong. If you look down at the cash and overall in the water fund, $79 million of the total fixed assets was $79 million. This year, it's at $88 million. Total cash for the water fund was $8.3 million in 2017, and you look to the left at 2021, it's $9.5 million. So overall, in the cash in the general fund alone, and 2017 was $18 million. This year, it's at $31.8 million. And just overall, the cash is steadily rising, and that's pretty good, especially with the amount of projects the county has going on this year. The breakdown of the general fund revenues can be found on page 5 of the audit presentation. Going straight down with the general fund revenues, the ad valorem taxes were $38.5 million. Other taxes and licenses are $12.4 million. Intergovernmental governmental revenues was $14 million. Sales and services $2.8 million. Investments is right at $74,000, and miscellaneous $143,000. And that's, you can see a breakdown of the percentage on page 11. So ad valorem taxes are about 57% of the total revenues for the general fund. Sales and services is at 4%, intergovernmental at 21%, other taxes at 18%. That's just a general pie chart that shows you exactly where the revenues are coming from for the general fund. So the breakdown of the general fund expenditures, general governmental was $6.5 million, public safety at $12.6 million, economic and physical development $982,000, human services $17 million, cultural and recreational was $446,000, educational $18.7 million, and debt service of $2.5 million. You can also see that on page 12 or page 11 for the breakdown based on percentages. So the overwhelming majority was educational of 31%, general government was 11%, public safety 21.4%, human services 28.88%. So if you look on page 6 of the presentation, you'll get a general understanding of the analysis of fund balance. So total fund balance, you see to the far left of 2017, the blue column is the total fund balance, and the restricted and committed and assigned fund balance is the red. So total fund balance, obviously, like I said before, in 2021 was 34 million, and the restricted is 9.1 million. So there you have a strong trend of the total fund balance continuing to rise year over year. And the analysis of fund balance available, the second chart on page 6 also shows a very strong trend, 45% over 35.68% last year. With the weighted average is all the counties. It's basically the group weighted average is basically all the counties that's like Beaufort County. Debt information has not came out yet for 2021. That normally we will get in April of 2022 when the state has compiled all that information. On page 7, the analysis of unsigned fund balance as a percentage of the general fund expenditures. You're looking at right at 42%. Again, that's a solid trend, trending in the right direction. The higher, the better. Analysis of revenues over the expenditures before the transfers. Blue table is the general fund, red is solid waste fund, and the water fund is the green. So again, you can find a lot of this information year-to-year comparison in the MD&A, pages 4 through 12 of the audit report. So like I said before, in all, the aggregate, the revenues increased by $10.3 million over 2020. The expenses increased by $4.2 million. So you had a really solid year for the 2021 audit. On page 8 is just a general breakdown of the cash balances and the fund balances together. So in the general fund, 31.8 million. You see it on the pie chart, it's overwhelming majority. Water district had 9.5 million, solid waste of 1 million, and other governmentals 9.2 million. The total cash for the year equals to be $51,797,368. And if you compare that with the fund balances, general fund balance of 34 million, water district funds of 32.7 million, solid waste of 1.3 million, other governmental 6.6. And that brings your total fund balance to $74,778,278. On page 9 of the presentation, just shows the property tax rates compared to the aggregate. Again, this information hasn't come out for the other counties. We'll get that around April or May of 2021. So Beaufort County was stagnant this year with a tax rate of 6.635. Again, but although the rate stayed the same, property tax revenue increased by $1.3 million over 2020. The collection percentages, it rose slightly this year to 98.38%, and that's over 98.1% from last year, and that is again above the aggregate, which is 97.96% in 2020. So going on to the debt analysis, which can be found on page 10. And this can also, if you want a further breakdown of this, it can be found on page 59 of the audit report. The green is the business type, the limited obligations, $31.4 million of obligation. The purple is the installment purchase of $3.6 million. The red is the governmental installment purchases of $3.8 million. The dark blue, $10,977,000 is the governmental general obligations, and you have $1.8 million of revenue bonds. On page 11, this can be also found on page 5 of the presentation, and the dollar amounts. It's just, like I said, it's just a general breakdown if you want to go back and look at that as well. But I think we'll cover this pretty good. So I just want to hit on some highlights and an overview of the financials. The governmental funds net income was $8.4 million this year. The business type net income rose $2.9 million. Of the governmental funds, the general funds net income itself was $8.7 million. Solid waste net income was $291,000 alone. Water district's net income was $2.6 million. And of that net income of 2.6, it was obviously helped out with some of the capital projects. Total government fixed assets purchased just for the general fund alone was $1.4 million. Business type fixed assets purchased during the year was $2.8 million, of which obviously $2.7 million coming from CIP, from the capital projects ongoing. Total debt for the governmental funds is at $29.9 million, and that includes the pension and OPEB. Total business debt of $38.7 million. There was no financial statement finance this year. Like I said before, the only finance we found was pertaining to the Medicaid audit. Overall, the financial trends are strong. The fund balances, cash, and the coverage of expenditures continue to be strong year over year with the capital projects and additional expenditures, and that's a really good sign for the county. I think with these strong trends and with these ongoing projects, it seems to me that we are being good stewards of the citizens' money.
Questions? Okay, Commissioner Rebels.
Can you tell me what the unassigned fund balance is in the water district?
Let me find it for you.
I didn't think I saw it in here. Saw the total, or I saw the general fund.
Next, I can probably go to the audit a little quicker. Unrestricted for the water district, $8.6 million.
8.6, okay.
That's unassigned.
Yes. Total fund balance of total water is $32 million. So $24 million of that is net investments and capital assets.
Okay. Other questions of the auditor?
I have a question.
Yes.
Well, really, it's more of a statement. If you go to page 6 and look at the chart there that shows a 45.07% fund balance, when the red line on there shows the average for comparable counties under comparable situations at 35%, that amounts to almost $7 million. That is a bad reflection on this board. While we want to crow that we're liquid and we have money, we're not managing money properly. We're doing two things. We have, for the last 3 or 4 or 5 years, we have been underestimating revenue. And that is causing this fund balance to grow. We gave with a $7 million more than the average. Now, keep in mind that what this means at 35% of our fund balance is about $24 million. We've got a lot of money, of your money, that we have taken for taxes that's sitting in the bank doing nothing that you could have. Beaufort County gave a paltry 1 cent, which is $700,000 of tax reduction this year, while we're sitting on $7 or $8 million of true surplus. That should be given back to the taxpayers. It is a bad reflection on the management of this board and on the people on this board who are going along with underestimating revenue while these revenues climb and that money is sitting in the bank. That's your money. You should have it. It's called overtaxation.
May I make a few comments
Yes.
about that? Well, first of all, what you've been given tonight is a really quick, I think, good overview of our financials. However, last Thursday, the Finance Committee took a very deep dive into the financials. We had about a 2.5, 3 hour meeting that I think was, very beneficial. One thing that did come out of our meeting is that, we all agree that we've been good stewards of the county's money. Expenditures have tended to come in under budget while revenues do come in better than anticipated. And we have seen our fund balance grow over the years. It may be time, and we do believe it's time to look at our fund balance policy. The official fund balance policy of the county is that we will strive to maintain 35% available fund balance. And if you look at the chart on page 6, and give everybody an opportunity to look at the actual picture, we are at, last year in 2020, we were at 35.68%. So number one, we were right at what our adopted policy said we would be. And number two, we were right at what our peer group was at. Because if you see that red line there, the peer group was at 35.05%. You can see they're almost identically on the same dot. Now, you're right, Commissioner Richardson. All counties, because of the flooding in of the COVID funds and the grant funding last year, did go up significantly. So we did go from 35.68% to 45%. And unfortunately, I did try to get our peer group averages to see where they're at, but it doesn't really matter where our peer group's at. I think everybody's in agreement that it is time to look at our fund balance policy, and we feel like the appropriate time to do that will be in January next month during our planning retreat for next year's budget, to see if the board would like to adjust that number down and how we go about doing that. So to your point, I am in agreement with you that our fund balance has grown to a level where we might want to look at adjusting that number down.
Any other questions?
No, I'd just like to say thank you, financial officer, for giving these commissioners cover on lowering the fund balance. Thank you.
Any other questions? We're going to take a deep dive on it. One of the comments that you made was we do have some projects coming up that are very capital intensive, so we will have the choice of using cash, or we'll use the idea of kicking some of these things down the road and not addressing them. So, it really gets down to the board and what the passion is, and whether this board wants to face some of the issues that have been on the table for a number of years. So, but our policy is 35%. My guess is when you look at the peer, that they're probably going to look similar to us.
I believe so.
It may not be as high, but I think it'll be very similar to that. And I think we can have those numbers by the end of January, if I understood you correctly.
They won't be available to the LGC until April, but I plan to call the peer groups and ask them what their fund balances are, so I can have that number for you in January at our meeting, our planning retreat. Yes, we're at 45% now, and I'm going to sit here and say that is too high. It's 10% higher than we said we'd be at. But again, it's because we had a lot of free money last year, and it's one-time money. It's not going to continue on. That is one-time money that, we hope, how can it continue on? I don't think it'll continue on.
Well, and the other thing that we're going to be facing is inflation, and the inflation takes a bite out of it increases our cost. We're not exempt from that 5% or 6%, whatever that number is going to be. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion to approve this?
I think it's for information
All right.
only.
You want to go to your next item?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. The next item I have is the U.S. Cellular contract. So we had an opportunity to meet with our U.S. Cellular public sector rep to do an annual review of our account and all of our cellular services with U.S. Cellular. And he has recommended that we move from a shared plan where we have a certain bank or allotted amount of data minutes to a government unlimited plan with special pricing. And that way we can eliminate some of the data overages that we've experienced in some of our areas. By doing that, we originally showed this as a savings because DSS was included in the analysis. We've now removed DSS from that because they're actually testing out a different service provider. So once we remove DSS out of it, it's actually going to increase to $170 per month. But that $170 per month will upgrade all the basic phones, 17 basic phones at the water department, and get those folks using a smartphone. So it gives us better equipment and unlimited data at just a slight increase in price, $170 a month for the whole county. Yes, sir.
Were you having overage fees and data?
Yes.
Are those included in this?
An average of it was.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Question.
The main reason for the increase, there's a lot of savings on the data side, not paying the overages. The slight increase will be charged to water because we're upgrading 17 basic flip phones to smartphones. Otherwise, it would be a bigger savings.
Mr. Lee.
Is that $170 per phone?
No, per month total.
$170 for everything?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, what was I noticed that DSS went with a different vendor.
They haven't switched to a different vendor. They're testing, I believe it's called, it's AT&T FirstNet.
Yeah.
And I think she has a handful of phones, 5 or 6 phones that she's testing out. But at any time, she may choose to move more over from US Cellular to AT&T.
Okay.
So we didn't want to do a 2-year contract for those phones and, her not have the option of switching if she chooses.
So is this the best available vendor that you have dealt with? For service-wise, because I was in a town yesterday and the USA were pretty weak.
The departments that we've talked to, they're happy with the service. I believe DSS has experienced, I think the example Melanie used for me was when she was in Ocracoke, she didn't get very good service with US Cellular, but with AT&T she did. So that was an example she gave me with the service in Ocracoke. So I think it depends on who you ask and where they're at in the county.
Well, I got USA and I didn't go to Ocracoke. I went to Acre Station and I couldn't get
Yeah.
service.
There's some areas in the county that all providers have poor service.
Problems, yeah.
Thank you.
Why does the water department need to upgrade to a smartphone? What are the benefits?
Might have to let Christina talk about that, but basically right now, so they're trying to do their work with the work orders and the new AMI metering, smart meters with tablets and hotspots, and they're using multiple devices. And if they go to a smartphone with Wi-Fi and data, they can just go to that one device. It's just more efficient.
I'm assuming the smartphone, it has a hotspot
Yes.
in there.
Just need a motion to approve or to authorize the manager to sign a 2-year contract.
We got a motion and a second to approve the contract. All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
The next item is soil and water, the purchase order approval. Ann?
Good evening, Commissioners. I return tonight on behalf of the Beaufort Soil and Water Conservation District to recommend the approval of their purchase order and the selection of J&J Environmental as the contractor to complete their Phase 2 stream debris removal work. After careful consideration, all due diligence, the board stands firm on their decision in making that selection as the lowest responsible bidder.
I believe we approve the purchase order.
Question.
We got a motion and a second. Now discussion.
Okay. What is the difference between the high bid and the low bid on the contracts?
The dollar amount,
Yes.
$22,074.
Why wasn't the low bidder selected?
Because the contractor who was selected has excellent references, unquestionable references. He's known to us. He has worked with us before. He's somebody that can, as he did for us in the past, he'll jump in, do a great job quickly, very time.
Okay, now I take that answer this way. What you just said was that the low bidder has poor references and will do a sorry job.
I didn't say that. I said the other.
That's what you said.
No, sir. I said
That's
the
what
other
you said. You said
excellent
that when you say that who you selected has great references and will do a great job, then the person that was not selected must have a lower rating.
His references were not as good.
Okay, now, one of the games that's played in this business is when you don't want to award something to somebody, people get on the telephone and they start calling until they get people to say things they want to hear, and then they don't make the award. Did you do that?
Did I call people?
Did your department, when I say you, your department, anybody in your department?
Call who?
Anybody about his references?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
His references were reviewed, the references that were submitted in the bid package.
And the references gave him a bad reference?
They did not give him as good of one as the other.
As the person that you want to award this contract to?
That's correct.
If this contract is misawarded by this $22,000, you know, this is being proffered to this board as being approval of a purchase order. This is not approval of a purchase order. The money, the grant that you've got to fund this came to who?
It was awarded to the Beaufort Soil and Water Conservation District.
Who was the check sent to?
There hasn't been no check. It's a grant.
Who will the grant be awarded to?
To the Soil and Water District?
No, that's not true.
Well, are you talking Beaufort County then? The funds, the payments for the work will come from Beaufort County and they will be reimbursed 100% by the grant.
That's correct. And when the grant, the money is sent to Beaufort County on all of these grants, we do a lot of grants. There are no grants that direct pay. Very, very few. I don't want to say no because I remember one or two that direct paid, but they don't direct pay for a reason. Because when they give that grant money, if the money is misspent, then somebody has to make it up. Somebody has to be responsible. The county of Beaufort and this board is going to be responsible if you misaward this grant, this money. And the $22,000 that's involved, plus whatever other money that is in default, is going to be paid by the taxpayers of Beaufort County. So I want to make it perfectly clear, we're not approving your decision to give this grant to somebody. This board will be approving a contract with an individual. And it's set up for the specific reason of that way so that the county can be held responsible for these funds. So let's get off of the word game. You're playing word games and it doesn't really look good. I've had a lot of complaints over the years with low bidders on contracts that are not awarded when you can't really be specific in saying why this person is not qualified for this contract. What I would like for you to hear you say is, oh, it took him 6 months to do a 3 month contract. Oh, he is not reliable. He didn't show up from the notice to proceed. He didn't show up for 2 months after the notice to proceed. You have no specifics. So this looks like a contract to me based on an award of favoritism, and I don't intend to vote for it for that reason.
Any other comments? Since I've been a commissioner for 7 years, we've always honored the recommendation of the elected Soil and Water Board, and that's the reason I made the motion.
Mr. Chairman?
And I will stick with that. You've already had your comments. Thank you.
I have a right to speak. You speak, I have a right to rebut. This is a deliberative body. Are you denying me the right to speak?
Go ahead. I'll give you 1 minute.
Oh, yeah. Well, gracious. Thank you, King Chairman. I appreciate that. Now, since I've been here 26 years, This board has stepped up from the ethical and honesty standpoint to see to it that contracts have been awarded to the low bidder. And if we want to continue to do business, we need to award these contracts to low bidders so that we get good prices. There are several other contracts in this county that I have complaints about, and I intend to get involved in those because some of this stuff has gone on too long, and it needs to be stopped.
Okay, ready for a vote. All those in favor of the purchase order, raise your right hand. Those opposed? Thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
The next item is solid waste update. Wes?
Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you for having me tonight. Public Works staff was requested to give an update on site improvements at the Yatesville site. We did want to take this opportunity to actually bring some further updates about our solid waste program versus just talking about that one site. So I want to talk about a few items here. The first thing we've got on our list is signage. As you're aware, we've made schedule changes in the past months to a year, I think. And as a part of that, signage was very important. So we are working on a comprehensive update to all of our site signage. That's we started with planning, making sure that all of our designs and everything are as they need to be, making sure that all of the information, which there's a lot of information that has to go on these signs to relay what we need the citizens to know. So we planned, we've gone through several iterations of designs of signs to make sure that everything was laid out, was readable from the road, making sure that they were the best they could be. We feel like we've done that. The first phase of the signage has been to do the operating hours of the sites, which will go on the exterior of the fence, which is visible from the road. Obviously, that's one of the most important signs we can have at those sites. There has been some delays due to material availability, as we're running into a lot in Public Works right now. Currently, we are installing those signs right now, 10 of them. We have 6 on hand right now, and we're getting those installed now. The south side has been completed. The second phase of the signage project will be to update our signs inside the site, showing what are the acceptable materials that we'll take at these sites. Each site has different offerings. A few sites have a different offering. Most of them are the same, but some of them do have a few less services just because of space and everything like that. So we've got to make sure we're planning for what we're doing down the road. So as a part of that, our planning and design has been somewhat completed for the interior signs, but we are wanting to finalize a updated solid waste ordinance, which I'll speak about in a few minutes, before we actually issue the order for those signs to make sure we're getting them as they need to be for what we've got planned going forward. The next thing that we've done is a few months ago, we came to you for a 2-year contract for cellular service for security cameras at the site. We have installed Arlo cellular cameras at most sites. The only one I have not been able to get to yet is the Buck Jones site. One thing we did run into with our original plan is we had solar panels that were going to power these sites. We found that due to the activity of the sites, the solar panels are not able to keep up the batteries in the cameras. So we're working on converting those into electrical. Some places we've got to install some outlets and things like that, but we're making progress on that. With these cameras, I frequently go in and I'm able to review the footage. It's things like making sure the site is open when it's supposed to be, making sure the attendant's there. I can go in and look, and if we get a call about the bulk bin is overflowing, I can pull up a camera and see, is that the case right now or not? Because we do get calls saying, the bin's overflowing, and then we check with Republic and go out there and it's empty. So it gives us a quick, easy way to check on some of those things. We can just review the operations, and, just see some site attendant interactions with the public. I cannot review all the footage. I frequently look at my phone and I have 2,000, 3,000 notifications where these recordings have started. So I have no way to go through and look at every single one of them. So we really do have to rely on these attendants. If something does happen at one of the sites, they've got to let us know within our 30-day storage limit that we have with our subscription service. So we've passed that along to management of Republic, and they've filtered that down to their site attendants. We have already found where footage has been helpful in finding and resolving some issues, mostly due to some operating hours kind of things. But they are already coming in handy, and I think we'll only find as we go forward that continues to be the case more and more. One thing that we missed putting on the agenda, but I did want to touch on briefly, is we have also installed traffic counters at each of the sites. That was one piece of data that we really had no idea on other than going by tonnage, but that's hard to rely on, how busy the site is or anything. That could just be somebody brought a huge truck and added a bunch of tonnage. They've been in place at all sites since around mid-April to mid-May. Data's been being gathered day in, day out. However, it does require a visit to the site to actually download the data onto a computer for analyzing it. I've pulled a few sites, and we're looking at how that data can be best used and best organized to make some decisions, but the counters are still going. So that's been a good development that we've got that information coming in. The next thing on the list is our engineering design. This kind of goes back to the original Yatesville site discussion. As was approved in the fiscal year 22 budget, we are planning to do site improvements at all 10 sites. We are currently working with Interbanks Engineering, who did our initial budget quotes for the project. We have issued a PO for the engineering services, and the in-depth design work is proceeding, beginning with the Yatesville site due to the metal platform safety issue, which we closed down because of that to vehicle traffic. We have run into the first surveyor that the engineer was using has had to back out due to their workload. However, the engineer has secured the services of Sorrell Surveying, and they have committed to completing the survey at the Yatesville site by the end of this week. At that point, design work will commence, and we anticipate issuing a bid package for our Yatesville site improvements in January. So a little bit of delay there, but we're overcoming that by getting some additional help in there. Once that big package has been issued, design focus is going to shift to our heavily trafficked sites, River Road, Chocowinity, Cherry Run, which we'll plan to issue as one bid package, and then we'll continue on to the remaining sites for further work. But we're trying to hit the safety issue first, then our heavily trafficked sites, and then we'll move to the rest. The next 4 items, we are actually working with Mr. Vance Moore of Garrett & Moore Incorporated. They are a firm that specializes in solid waste engineering. So I'm going to kind of talk about all those together. Number 2 and 3, the solid waste ordinance and hauling registry kind of go hand in hand. And please, if y'all have any questions at any point, feel free to stop me. I'm sorry, I'm carrying on. We've been working on a comprehensive update to our solid waste ordinance to replace the one that was passed in 1974. There's a lot of things in that ordinance that are outdated, don't apply to what we're currently doing, and we need to improve what we've got on the books there. We've met several times with Mr. Moore to discuss his experiences in other locations that he's worked at. We've spent time researching other counties throughout the state, seeing what their language and their ordinances look like. And what we're doing is we're trying to figure out the best combination of language that works best for Beaufort County, not only for today, but what's going to help us, 10 years down the road to make sure we're in a good position. We're planning on this ordinance involving items such as clarifying, a definition for the annual solid waste fee, because there's a lot of questions that come up about that. And I think depending on who you ask, you might get a different answer because we don't have something good to reference back to. But that's going to be a major improvement. Plan to include enforcement policies, which we've spoken about before, as well as the penalties associated with those. Also, a part of these improvements will be a hauler registry, where for a hauler such as David's Trash Service, Family Sanitation, etc., to go to the Republic Services transfer station and use the county's account, they will have to actually certify that their waste in that truck came from Beaufort County, and we'll have a whole, application process, permit process to assure that that is happening as it should. Next thing, mega site development. We're working with Mr. Moore on this. We've met several times to discuss, we've talked about history of the process of the mega sites, what some of the ideas that have been passed around, either in here or public works staff in general. We're trying to come up with a plan there. We've shared our solid waste data, and Mr. Moore is currently analyzing that data to evaluate what is the best look of a mega site as far as the services offered, certain design considerations, how will they work best, and how do they fit within the overall solid waste strategy of the county. But also, we're not only working for today, he's taking that data, he's modeling for future use. What do we expect solid waste to look like in Beaufort County 10 years from now, 15 years from now? We're not focusing solely on the past 10 years and today. We're looking to the future to make sure what we do is going to accomplish what we need to do 10 years from now. Last thing on the list, we are looking into potential revisions to our contract with Republic Services. Mr. Moore spent some time delving into the contract, using his expertise, his experiences with other counties, other locations, to look for any areas of improvement. He's already sent over some comments that he's thought. We haven't really discussed it at length yet because of all the focus on the other items, trying to make those move forward. But really what we're trying to do is we've got a lot of areas that we want to remove the ambiguity to benefit both parties. It comes to our load count limits and severe weather hauls and things like that. There's a lot in the contract that we need to get more in black and white and get away from the gray area. I think ultimately our goal with this is to make improvements to our Republic contract at no additional cost. I can't say that 100% happens, but that's what we're trying to do. I'll be glad to take any questions on any of that.
Commissioner Booth.
Wes, good job.
Thanks, sir.
But I got a question. Kind of funny that you was here tonight. For yesterday, we had two people that called me about the Aurora site.
Yes, sir.
And all the things that you said that you were looking into, I think we need them. But on those boarding sites that's border other counties, we need to look at the way that those people from those counties are bringing their waste to us, and our citizens are paying for it. I had two calls yesterday from Aurora. And I told him I was going to say something to Christina tonight, but you've done a pretty good job, son. And could you address that? What are you going to do about those joining counties? Like in Aurora, Pamlico County is close. Aurora site is closer to some of those people, closer to that. Probably the same thing in Hyde or Washington County, and that's an issue that I hadn't heard it anywhere else but Aurora.
We certainly expect that. We think that, we have some Pamlico County residents that probably work at Nutrien that, they're on their way to work, they can drop it off, or, they're in Hyde County and they're going to Washington, we can stop by Pantego, or, Pitt Martin County, we can come to Cherry Run or Chocowinity or something like that. We certainly suspect it's happened. We don't have any way to, verify that. One thing that we're doing, very obvious, our new signs say Beaufort County residential waste only. That has not been anywhere else. I understand that, but we have to start with low-hanging fruit there, and we're caught that now. That will also be addressed in the ordinance update. And then if you recall, we talked about the card program, and that was to be discussed again when we talked further about mega sites. So we've got potential ideas that we wanted to kind of lump together in a more comprehensive plan.
Well, I just want to get not in case the person that called me knew I didn't lie to you.
Right.
Commissioner Revolts.
Do we have do you have any timing on the mega site? Expectations?
Going back and thinking about when I first was involved in it, the whole thing was our Republic contract ends in 5 years. We want to be prepared for that change in contract. I know with some of the ARPA funding, that timeline may need to move forward a little bit. If that's going to possibly be a consideration used to fund these projects. But as far as actually, Mr. Moore making plans or anything, I really don't have an answer for that question.
Why can't you've got your cameras, why can't you set those cameras and take license tags for about a week and then run a trace to see where those tags originated from?
We have been told that we cannot run license plates for that purpose.
Who told you that?
I don't know that I got that answer.
You can't do that. We don't have access. That's a law enforcement function, and we don't have access to that. The license plate information is through DCI, through the sheriff's office, any law enforcement agency. The Department of Justice is very tight on who has access to that, and using that for what they would consider this is not appropriate. We go to jail for that.
Well, let's just wait just a minute here. We're not identifying individuals. We want to see 2 or 3 numbers that just say so many cars were from Hyde County and so many cars were from Beaufort County during that period of time. Can you get me a copy of that statute?
I can get you the operating responses from the sheriff's office related to DCI.
I'd rather see the written word.
And that's what it is. It's the operating response.
Okay, I'd like to see that. And is it backed up by statute, or is this just a policy?
I think it's administrative law. Charlie, do you have any idea whether that's administrative law or whether that's statute?
Well, as far as the DCI,
Yeah.
do's and don'ts, yeah, it is part of the administrative code.
Okay. It's administrative code.
I'd just like to get copies of it.
When I was on the sheriff's department in 1982, that same law applied way back then, that you could not do it for other purposes.
We'll see.
Commissioner Revolts.
One last question. Whose responsibility again is it to get full bins out of a site? And the reason let me frame it for you. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Chocowinity. Both of the compactors were down. I don't know if they were full or broken. And 3 open bins were now being used to just throw trash into. That just drives our costs up immensely when you do that.
I'll give a little bit of update on the process, but there is good and bad to that. By including some of the bag trash in the bulk waste, it does help fill in some of the voids, so we do gain a little bit of weight in those containers. That's not an excuse for it happening. I personally actually ran into this situation yesterday myself. So Republic's process is towards the end of a day, a site attendant is to call into their dispatcher and give a report on the status of their bins. At that point, the dispatcher makes, the necessary plans based on all the information on where to send the trucks. I would prefer myself, if a bin gets full, it gets reported right then versus waiting until the end of the day. But they've got that process that they've got worked out, and that's what they're using.
Is there anything in the contract that holds Republic responsible for getting the bins moved?
Just that they're responsible for moving the full bins. I don't think there's any time constraints or anything in the contract that I recall.
Apologize for coming up. I had a couple of comments. One, regarding the full bin, since that's the current discussion. They are supposed, if both of the compactors were disabled and unable to operate, then utilizing an empty bin would be their SOP. That would be their standard, because the main goal is a resident should not go to the site and leave with the waste. So they make sure that the waste is left there. So if the compactors are not working, then they would be instructed to put it into any open top available. Do whatever it takes to take the waste so that it's there. We do not pay per load. We actually have a lump sum for trucking cost. So whether Republic is hauling a container that is compacted at a very heavy weight, or whether they are hauling a container that is at a lower weight, there is no additional charge to the county. So it is to Republic's advantage to have the compactors working. Yes, sir. So when it comes to the way that it would cost us is at the end of the year, we have a minimum number of loads, and then we pay an overage if there was a named storm that calendar year. So that is when it would come back and the county would be charged additional costs if there was an additional the higher number of loads. That is the reason, if anyone has been to the Magnolia School Road recently, they have installed a new compactor that is of a different design so that they can compact bulk waste. So Republic has installed that new piece of equipment, which is a very expensive piece of equipment, on their own dime. And they've done that so that they can reduce the trucking cost, so that they have less loads and less trucks running.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Question. Our tonnage price takes place from the transfer station to Bertie County.
We have two tonnage prices. We have two tipping fees. One is paid at the transfer station here off of Flanders Filters Road, and then we have a second tipping fee that is paid for final disposal at the landfill in Bertie County in Orlando.
All right, and I just thought of another question that concerns me personally. Why in the city of Washington am I getting a $25 a month tipping fee from the city of Washington? I know you don't represent the city of Washington.
That's what I was about to say.
I paid for this on my tax, so that's $300 a year.
Are you a commercial owner? A commercial?
Well, I mean, I have a business.
So
I wouldn't call myself commercial, but I guess I am.
I would contact the city of Washington and ask them that question. But I've also noticed that we now have that on our county utility bills as well. So that's my suspicion is that is their way to recoup the tipping fee that commercial, when the city of Washington goes and picks up for commercial businesses, they also go to the transfer station. So remember, the fee that we collect is tied to residences.
Right.
Residential trash,
okay.
Not commercial.
Gotcha.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, to respond back to the users of the sites near the county border, there are different ways that we can do that. We've talked about this for many years about it, but in order to do it, there has to be some amount of inconvenience to the residents. We can always hire someone. I mean, you go old school. You have someone standing at the gate with a clipboard, and when somebody comes through, you ask them where they're from. Some people will be honest. Some people have no idea that they're not supposed to use the convenience site. So they probably will say, I'm from Bayboro, or I'm from Beargrass, but my pickup's not scheduled until Tuesday and I want to get rid of this mattress. So, there are ways that we can do it, but please keep in mind that's not something that West nor I plan to activate and to change the policy. It would be something that we would look for you to give us that direction, because in order to gather information, we aren't Homeland Security. We don't have access to that type of stuff. So in order to gather the information, somebody needs to instruct us to do that and to understand that there will be some level of inconvenience or some level of discomfort or just something that's different that our citizens would need to be aware of.
Commissioner Walker.
concerning the mega site, I noticed that the Onslow County, I think, has opened up what I would think would our mega site might look like. And so I went on an internet search and I saw this fabulous machine that they put a complete car, tires and everything, and it sat there right before our eyes and ate it into little pieces. And wow, that's one on each side of the river. That would just chew up everything, and I hope that's being considered.
Go ahead.
There's definitely benefits to something like that. Obviously, acquisition costs would be astronomical, as well as maintenance on that kind of thing. Coming from an equipment background for me, those types of machines require a lot of maintenance. One thing that has been discussed as far as the mega sites is further use of compactors. Like the one that's now at River Road, where you can throw a couch in there and it'll eat it up. Compacting bulk waste, compacting MSW, compacting recycling, trying to do everything to limit our hauling cost. That's one thing that this analysis is showing, is that our hauling costs are a major factor in our prices that we're having to turn around and relay back to the taxpayer.
I'm happy that Yatesville is moving a little bit closer. On Mondays, we have three sites that are, three different sites that come there, mainly because the older people have problems at Sydney, climbing up the steps, and then, of course, Beach Ridge is closed. The question, are we looking at doing something similar at the Yatesville site that we had there before and adding something like a guardrail, or do we have enough room to drive up and back around, like at Beach Ridge and some of the other sites? I know the survey has not been completed.
Right. Obviously, not knowing what the engineer has in mind either. You may know more about that after your conversation this afternoon. I'm not sure, but our initial thoughts is more similar to what we had previously. We would essentially, our initial plan is get rid of the metal platform, move the bins closer to the retaining wall. You'd still be able to back directly up to the bins and be able to get closer that way.
But there would be a guardrail to keep somebody from backing their vehicle into the...
That's included in all of our safety improvements for each site, is some type of fencing guardrail to keep people from going into the bins without hopefully being too much of an inconvenience.
Thank you. Any other comments? Thank you very much, Wes.
Yes, thank you.
We're gonna take our break and we'll be back in 15 minutes. There we go.
I'm sorry, I tried not to come up here.
The next item is revision to the salary plan. Christina?
Good evening, Commissioners. On page 205 of your agenda book, you'll see information related to a proposed revision of the salary plan. As you'll recall, back in 2017, the MAPS group completed a classification and pay study for the county. During that time, the MAPS group sent out questionnaires to all employees to describe their current job duties. At that time of the employee interviews and the review of the questionnaires, the water quality technician position had only recently been approved, and an employee was not currently working in that position. The duties, responsibilities, and qualifications required of the water quality technician and the maintenance technician were intermingled and inaccurate. So basically, we have two of the classifications for the water department employees. One is a water quality technician, and one was previously called a maintenance technician and / treatment operator. Both of these were new positions that were created to fulfill needs that the water department had at the time. When the MAPS group completed their study, when they reviewed the questionnaires, there was some question and some technical language and technical terms that were used on the questionnaire that I believed is what caused them to intermingle the two positions. The pay study that was given to you for approval classified the water quality technician at a pay grade 63, and then they renamed the maintenance technician / treatment operator as a senior water quality technician, and gave that a pay grade of a 65. When we looked at those in details, we saw that, again, that they appear to be intermingled and they were inaccurate. Some of the inaccuracies were things that were considered major. For instance, the water quality technician certifications, state certifications are required for that position. They are our backflow ORC, which is a responsible operator or operator in responsible charge, which means that they personally are legally liable for decisions that are made. We have quite a few of those positions, and when you hold that position of operator of responsible charge, you are therefore given or your classification is assigned a higher pay grade due to those responsibilities that you carry with you every day. Once those were identified, water management staff worked with the Human Resources Department, and we compiled all of the needed information and gave the correct and accurate duties and responsibilities and qualifications required, and we submitted that to the MAPS group for their review. The MAPS group then reviewed the information. They composed new class specifications for both positions with the more accurate information, and they revised the title of the position again, the senior water quality technician. They're now recommending that we call that a plant maintenance mechanic position, and they also revised the recommended pay grade. So again, in the middle of page 205, you'll see a table that gives a summary of what the previous title and pay grade was, then what the current title and pay grade currently is as recommended previously by the MAPS group, and now what I'm proposing today following the recommendation of the MAPS group, which would revise the senior water quality technician position to a title of plant maintenance mechanic, and then revising the pay grade of the water quality technician. No additional funds are required for this budgetary year, but again, before Commissioner Booth asked, this would be an increase in next year's salary due to changing the pay grade from a 63 to a 66. Just to give you an idea, it's about a $5,000 change in the hiring rate. But what this does by altering the pay grade is it puts that person who is required to have 3 certifications, it puts them in line with other people. Some are required to have 1, some are required to have 2, so it puts them in the appropriate place in the pay plan.
What's the wishes of the board?
To approve the salary revision.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Well, can I say something?
Let's see if there's a second. Okay, we got a second now.
Well, Mr. Beaufort can come over from a different angle this time.
Okay, yes, sir.
You know, I believe in fairness, don't you?
Yes, sir.
It wasn't many months ago that we told the sheriff department to come back at budget time.
Yes, sir.
And I wish you would do the same. Then I could vote for it. Okay. But right now, I can't, because the sheriff had the same problem. And they want to say that we're against the sheriff. We're not against the sheriff, but I'm for fairness. And if you want to bring it back at budget time, I would consider it highly. But tonight, I can't support it.
Understand the timing for this is that currently the water quality technician is a vacant position. So as far as in the advertisement, as we're advertising and we're looking for someone who either has 3 water certifications or someone who has the ability to obtain, and I'm not speaking just to you, has the ability to obtain, that is why I am requesting it at this particular.
Well, I understand you're not just speaking to me, but if he was going to do it tomorrow, it wouldn't change my mind at all, because I look at fairness. Now, if we didn't do it for him, and I didn't vote for it, I'm not going to vote for you. So whatever you explain is good, and I believe you, don't get me wrong. but I believe in being fair.
Well, I'm looking for fairness within my department. So we have people in the
For
department.
fairness in this whole county.
Yes, sir.
Not just one department, the whole county.
Commissioner Rebholz.
Did the prior job description only include one certification?
I believe that is the case. It didn't. There were quite a few inaccuracies in the previous job description, but it did not include all three of the certifications. No, sir. And this is actually the backflow certification, which, if you look at the pass fail rate of all of the water certifications, it has the lowest pass rate of any of the certifications. That's a very difficult examination for the backflow.
Well, yeah, I'm trying to understand why we're just now catching it compared to what we did before.
Because when it was presented, it was
Didn't the person have to have 3 certifications before?
Yes, sir. And I'm not a human resources specialist, so please understand that. But it was my understanding that the pay grade and the salary plan is what was presented for approval, not the class specifications, because the class specifications could be altered based upon the particular job and that type of thing. So that was so minor discrepancies are allowed, but once we looked at detailed, this was what we determined to be a major discrepancy.
Commissioner Richardson.
How many employees are we talking about?
One.
Just one employee?
Yes, sir.
Within these 2, or are you talking about one for each one of them?
Oh, it's one for each. The water quality technician is the person that operates. We do our flushing program, which you know that we now flush approximately 6 months out of the year. So they are working not 8 to 5. They generally work from about 9 until 6 in the morning. They are there managing one other person, so they're out operating at night. They're in control of the, turning valves on and off. So it has to be someone of a very high level that you entrust to be able to do that type of work, to do the unidirectional. Plus, they are also like I said, the operator and responsible charge of the backflow program once that certification is obtained. The previous employee had not received their backflow certification.
What is the midpoint of these 2, a 65 and a 66?
I do not have the full pay grade.
Tell us about what it is.
Well, that's a hiring, so I would guess approximately 10,000 more than that.
No, give me a number.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then I would guess the pay grade of the 63 would be around 45, and the pay grade of the 66 would be at 50 at the midpoint.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Okay. Those in favor of the recommendation, raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Thank you, Commissioner.
4-3. Okay. We're down to the purchase of the power load system. Chris?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Come before you today with an opportunity to save a small amount of money on the recently approved EMS truck. So as you recall, the last Commissioners meeting, the board approved the purchase of a new ambulance. In that bid spec, one of the line items in that bid spec included the stretcher and the power load system for that stretcher. And in that, the bid that was awarded for Select Customs, that line item amount was for $38,946. In reviewing operational cost and trying to keep up with changing prices prices of our supplies. Chief Hibbard was in conversation with Stryker, which is the company who makes that stretcher and power load system, and we found a couple of things. First, Stryker is forecasting a pretty significant price increase on all of their products next year. They estimated that for the power load and stretcher, the increase of that price after January 1 would be somewhere around $3,000. Now, as the contract stands right now, that's really no detriment to us because it's in the contract for Select. So Select would have to absorb any price changes. However, what we did find is that we can purchase the power load and stretcher for $793 cheaper from as a customer directly with Stryker than what Select can. So what we bring before you now is allowing us that approved amount of PO that you approve for our ambulance to be able to break that out so that we are purchasing the stretcher and power load for $793 cheaper. And then that entire line item Select would remove from the bid package because we have purchased that at a reduced rate. So overall, it would save us about $793.93. The additional benefit of that is whenever we purchase directly from Stryker, it is a more seamless transition into our service plan. So we have an existing annual service plan with Stryker that services all of our load systems and stretchers, kind of like an additional warranty, so to speak, or an extended warranty. New items purchased from Stryker have a 12-month warranty on them from the date in which you take possession. Our service contract is renewed annually in July. The seamless transition into that service plan, if we buy directly from Stryker, so if we take possession of that stretcher and power load in April of this year, and the warranty expires April of next year, from April of next year until July, when we renew our contract, we would have no service coverage on a stretcher if we purchase that through a third-party vendor. So if we leave it as it is right now, we include that cost in the Select Customs, we would lose that benefit versus buying directly with them. We would save roughly $800 and the provision on the service warranty. So that's what we bring before you tonight. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions? Is it $793 plus the additional $3,000 that it was going to go up?
No, sir, because any change in price, as it is right now, Select Custom has agreed, they've signed the contract stating we will include this in our price. So if Stryker goes up in its price $5,000, that would be absorbed by Select. So that change of the price going into next year is not necessarily a savings to us because we already have it in a contract. What Jeff has found through conversation with Stryker is we can actually save money just purchasing it directly because we get it at a cheaper price than what Select is getting it off the bat. I hope that answers your question. I know it's kind of muddy water, and I'm doing my best to explain it.
I have some questions.
Yes, Commissioner Richardson.
This particular unit, what does it actually do? Is it attached to the ambulance itself?
So if you could think of it as two pieces of equipment, okay? First, we're just the stretcher. And the traditional, if you saw all the old EMS movies, right, you had two people that pulled a lever and they actually had to pick the weight of the patient up. These particular stretchers are pneumatic. So you press a button and it raises the weight of that patient up and down. It's a huge safety piece for us, our employees, and just back injuries and things like that. So that is one component. When you see in the line item the power cot, that's what it's referring to, is that pneumatic stretcher. The power load system in the EMS world is kind of the equivalent of a Tommy gate on the back of an old service truck, where before our personnel would have to push that stretcher up to the back of the truck, and then they pick the weight of that patient up while someone else raises the wheels and pushes it in. The power load system is a device in which that stretcher locks into, and then it's hands off. You press a button, the power load supports the weight of the patient, and then you just slide it in to the vehicle from there. So both of these pieces of equipment greatly reduce your common heavy weightlifting injuries that an employee would have by the manner in which it works.
With us buying this unit separately and all the logistics that go with it, are the people that we're buying the ambulance from going to install it for us free?
Yes, sir. So
actually Stryker will come in and do it. The Stryker technicians will actually come in and do it this way. That is really the savings we're getting. Instead of them charging us the hourly wages for Select to put it in, the technicians from Stryker are doing it free, and that's the technicians that actually build units. 750 pounds.
So what you're going to have is the ambulance would be delivered here, and then they would come and install this unit.
Actually, it'll be a coordination between Select. When Select says they're ready, then Stryker will come to Select and actually do it in their service area in Falkland.
But the way a lot of these things work, I wouldn't think Select would be very happy about this.
Actually, it helps him out a whole lot by them doing it. It frees his people up to work on other ambulances and be able to get more units out. I have spoke with Dennis on this, and he is in agreement this is the best way to do it.
So Stryker supports the people that we're buying this from, support this?
Yes.
Do we have one of these? Do we have one of these on every truck?
No, sir. As of right now, the only truck that we bought since I've been here in 2018, which is the MS7, it has this unit on it.
So this will make two for us?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
So from the safety aspect, it's something that we would pursue with your permission to get on every truck moving forward.
I move we do it.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Commissioner Robots?
Should we have an amended purchase order on the ambulance?
Yes, sir, we do.
Okay, can you send that to us too? Okay, so we've got a record of that?
Yes, sir. And we actually have that in queue to be approved now. Yes, sir.
Changed price.
What? It's changed price.
Oh.
Yes, taking the power load system out of the truck.
Yeah.
Reduced it to 2,000.
That's what I mean. We need it with that new out.
Yes, we already got it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Those opposed? 5-2.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Okay, Lloyd, the negotiated TTC agreement.
This will hopefully be simple. This is, and I think I made a small error. I actually did not give you all, and I'm looking at Katie, it is my fault. I did not give you a signed copy of it, but I have a signed copy with me of this where the taxpayer signed this. But essentially, we have an open PTC case, and we have an agreement, and I would need the board to ratify that agreement.
Okay.
This is, in other words, we've already discussed with the customer. Normally, when we discuss with you, I discuss with you. We have not. This one has been discussed. We have an agreement between us if the board so sees fit to agree.
All right. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agreement that's been reached by our tax assessor.
So moved.
We got a motion and we got a second. Any questions? All those in favor, raise your right hand. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Lloyd.
Yes, sir.
All right, economic development, request to lease the industrial park at Chocowinity for hunting. Martin?
Good evening, Commissioners. Yes, Mr. Marcus has asked that he and some friends be allowed to lease the land at the Beaufort County Industrial Park for hunting and access to other hunting sites for the remainder of the 2021 hunting season, which would be up until January 1st, 2022. He's willing to pay a fee and also repair any damage to the farm road with gravel that might occur when they're using it for hunting. Currently, the land is leased to Keith waters for farming, and I've spoken to Keith, and he's okay with the hunting situation. So the fiscal impact is potentially maybe a few $100s of revenue from the hunting lease. Really didn't have a recommendation. Just the fear is that, the hunters may cause some damage on the property.
How about liability?
Maybe David can address that.
You're going from a immunity as a government activity to a commercial proprietary situation, and so in theory, you could be liable for any type of accident that occurred as a result of leasing it to hunters. That's the objection.
Yeah.
And frankly, I'm not sure of an insurance carrier or coverage in that situation. But that's my concern.
Well, are the hunters willing to provide us with a certificate of insurance?
They haven't told me a certificate of insurance. They've said that they would, sign something not holding the county liable. But I haven't talked about
it's not quite done that way. Not quite done that way.
Yeah.
So one of the comments that I'll say is that on our farmland, we have tried to accommodate hunters. And when we ask for them to cover the insurance, to my knowledge, there's only one carrier, and that's Farm Bureau. And what they were requiring is they were requiring them to form an LLC and provide insurance through that. And the people, once they found out the cost of it, they had to back out.
Yeah.
So I'm opposed to it because of the liability to the county, because it's going outside of what we normally do, and we've never done it on our one here in Washington. And we've got that for economic development.
Right.
And if somebody wants to go out there at the same time the hunters are there, I can tell you what happened on our farm. It was almost a fight. Right. So I'm opposed to that. Now, if somebody wants to make a motion and get it started, we'll take a vote. Is there a motion to approve? I'm sorry. Brian?
Just a quick comment. I know Commissioner Boots has raised the issue of fairness. I guess from our perspective also, like when we have public property that we allow farmers to farm on, we put that out as a request for bids. So I've got a little bit of a concern if you were to select an individual group or group of people to say we're going to give you personal benefit from a public piece of property without putting that out and saying we're opening that to either everybody, to open it up to anybody and everybody, or put it in a bid situation where you say, okay, if you want to do that, we're now receiving bids and you can pay us $100. Next person can up that bid. I think you have to be careful in that, because there is an emoluments clause of the Constitution that doesn't allow you to provide use of public property for personal benefit.
I would make a motion that goes like this, that we be willing to consider leasing, providing that we can receive assurance that no liability will fall on the county. And you may lease it for a short term this year. I wouldn't mind doing that with the emoluments thing, but you still emoluments, but you would next year it would have to be fully bid. So, you get into this expense thing, gets in the way of it. So I would make that motion. Provide us, and I could do that again. I would be willing to lease, providing that the lessor can provide us with adequate insurance liability and a competitive price. And the manager's probably right. You wouldn't have time to bid it this year, but you would do that next year. Not do it this year, do it next year. Because I don't think you have time to advertise it. I mean, hunting season will be over with by the time you place the ad. So maybe we look at that for next year. That's a motion.
To wait until next year?
Yeah, we do this next year, but it would have to be given as a competitive bid, as the manager described, and that we would only lease it under terms that we could be satisfied that there was a sufficient liability protection for the county.
Yeah. But I want to make sure I understand. Are you recommending that we do it for this year from
No,
now until
I don't think you have time to satisfy the requirements this year because, but I think next year we should take a look at doing it. Should consider it. And that means advertising it and seeing what people are willing to pay and then presenting them in the advertisement of what the limits of liability would be. And that can be done in conjunction with our carrier and our attorney.
Mr. Chairman, just from, and I'm not going to speak for the county attorney, but I think I know what his comment is. From a staff's perspective, from my recommendation to you as the county manager, I would not recommend that you do that. And I think the county attorney, from a liability perspective, would not recommend that you do that. Ultimately, the Board of Commissioners is the policy-making decision. We make recommendations to you. We offer you our best advice. Our best advice to you would be not to do that. You ultimately make that final decision.
We got a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Further discussion. Anybody with any comment? Okay, all those in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. Those opposed?
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Okay, item number T is the clerk. Katie, you got the 2022 Board of Commissioner meeting schedule in our book. Does anyone have any problems with these dates as of now?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
I make a motion that we accept these dates with the understanding that if any one of us have a conflict, that we can notify the clerk prior to the conflict.
We always change.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd just like to say it's just far too early to be definitive here.
Okay, we need a motion to approve these. Okay, we got a motion. Second. I'll second that. All right.
Just to say something real quick, the statute does sort of clarify that it's preferred to do it the first Monday of each month, and there are 2 months in here that are the Tuesday of each month. So if you change it, I'm going to need enough time to advertise it, change it, and do all of
I think
last minute kind of change.
I think we should be able to do it a month in advance. I don't think we should be able to change it mid-month.
No.
But yeah. Okay, all those in favor of this schedule, raise your right hand. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I want to raise one issue on schedules that I have a problem with that has not come before us. It may come before us at budget time, and we may want to wait to budget time. But the Christmas vacation season for county government this year that's proposed, that I saw on the internet somewhere, has 5-day Christmas break for county employees. Now, yes, it is. It's 5 calendar day Christmas break. Tell me I'm wrong again.
You're correct, Mr. Richmond. It does include a weekend. And,
yeah.
And the board's policy on that is we follow the state schedule. So that's Thursday, Friday, and Monday.
Well, here's the problem I have with this. The people that pay these taxes don't get that. They don't get a 5-day Christmas break that's paid for. We've been doing this for several years now. It was 2 days for Christmas. I don't mind 2 days, but I have a serious problem when county government is shut down for 5 consecutive days.
Yeah, work on Saturday night.
And the the public doesn't get this benefit.
They don't work on Saturday. It's Sunday. It's a deputy or something.
Well, when will we take this up? This will be a part of the budget?
Well, it's a change in the policy.
It would be a policy change because your personnel policy reads that you adopt the state of North Carolina holiday schedule.
That's right.
That's how the 3 days got in there, because it was always 2 days until that came along.
And some days it depends on when Christmas falls. When Christmas Day falls.
No, lately it's been being a 3-day break. 3 holidays for Christmas is what's been being fallen. Am I wrong?
Yeah. But
wait a minute. I want the county manager to tell me I'm wrong.
I'm not sure what the question is.
There's been 3 working holidays for county employees for Christmas for the last 3 or 4 years.
I couldn't tell you what they were. I'd have to go back and look at the state schedule. What I know is that the personnel policy that was adopted by the board reads that the Beaufort County follows the state of North Carolina schedule for holidays. So whatever those were, I mean, I can go back and look at them, but I don't recall them off the top of my head.
Well, I don't mind debating what it says and what it doesn't say and all that, but I've been watching this, and my concern is for the people of Beaufort County. They do not get this kind of a plush benefit for Christmas. And I don't think that our employees should get it. Now, if the state wants to give it, that's fine. Let them give it. It's our money they're giving away. So this will come. I'll put this on the agenda. Don't worry about it. You'll all get a chance to vote on it.
All right. We're down to the committee appointments, and you've got that in your book. The only one that's not on there is ever since Al Clem chose not to run again, I've served on the College Facility and Maintenance Committee. And I think we need to add that. And if someone would like to replace me, I'll be happy to allow them to do that. Is anybody else wanting to make a change?
No, I'd like to be relieved of the RPO TCC.
You're the alternate, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So remove me.
Do we have to have an alternate on that?
You've already got an alternate, Commissioner Booth.
Okay.
There's an alternate for the TAC and an alternate for the TCC. So Commissioner Richardson serves as the alternate for the TCC. I serve as the primary for that.
Do we need an alternate?
Typically, I mean, they would like an alternate. I don't know that I've missed any of those meetings, but that doesn't mean to say that I couldn't potentially in the future.
Do we have a volunteer?
Stand that you know where.
Yeah, he's on.
But I'm not. I don't get any.
He's on the Highway 17.
I'm not notified of any meetings the past 4 years or how many years, so it doesn't really matter.
Since I'm the other one, can I do both? Can I fill both roles at once?
I think you can, as long as obviously you can't serve both at the same time, but typically someone's going to be there. So yeah, you should be fine with that if you want to do that.
Okay.
I mean,
well, Katie, if you'll make that change.
Do we remove me from the Highway 17 committee since I'm not getting any notifications?
Yeah, but you got the 17 expanded. Look at you.
Look, great job you're doing.
Maybe I should never show up.
Good thing they did send you to vote.
That's right. I probably voted against.
Yeah.
Still being dirt.
Would anyone like to take that one? I've served on it in the past, and I'll be glad to serve again. But I also want to have, pardon? You'll take it, Randy? Okay, Walker is going to take that. Okay, I need a motion to approve, second, and a second. All those in favor of the changes we're talking about here, raise your right hand. Those, okay. I didn't have to ask, did I? Those opposed. All right, the next item is the Beaufort County Schools average daily membership trends. And if you look in the book, there's a comparison for each one of the campuses from 2018 to 2021. The only thing that I would suggest is that we take a look at this during our planning in January. I'll highlight just a few things. We've had a drop of 679 students, or 11% in a 4-year period. If you look at the average students per location, that's the equivalent of 1.5 schools. Moving Ed Tech to Southside High School caused a drop in that enrollment by 32%. And the NC State study that the commissioners paid for and had done in 2018, the enrollment was predicted at that time to be 5,921, and that number has dropped to 5,768. And if you remember the joint meeting that we had, there was a lot of people that didn't believe the NC State forecast numbers in 2018. So it's mostly for information and also to make sure that we take a look at that. We're responsible for the capital, and we continue to see all of these schools operating, and it's the enrollment just keeps dropping. Okay. The next item is the district attorney's office storage space. I'm sorry, Seth. We're delighted to have you.
Well, I'm delighted to be here. Good evening and Merry Christmas, everyone. I know it's getting late, so I'll get right to the point. I'm here tonight to request some additional space in the courthouse annex across the street from the courthouse, and I've got two main reasons. It's not just about space, it's also about access to my office. Believe it or not, at the end of this month will mark 19 years that I've been your district attorney. And in those 19 years, I have not come to you and asked for any type of funding over and above what you already have to provide by statute. Approximately half of the district attorneys in North Carolina have a county budget each year that they get money, personnel, and furniture, all types of office supplies from the county in addition to what the state provides. And I'm not here to ask you for that tonight. I don't want to have a line in your budget each year. That's right. That's right.
He's going to 5 counties.
I'm doing my best to be a good steward of the public's money, just like you are. Unfortunately, we've outgrown our office space. We're at the point now that we have no more space to keep our closed files, except to put them on the floor. Many of you will remember years ago when Jim Spain was in charge of maintenance here in Beaufort County, and he came over and built some shelving inside of our office. And I think it's on page 222 or so of your agenda. I sent some photographs of that shelving. Well, all of those shelves are full. We've got boxes stacked on top of the shelves. We have no other place to put them. Now, I will credit Brian with reminding me of an idea, and that is whether we can take some external hard drives, scan some of those old files into the computer, and then destroy some of these old files. I asked the state in 2018 for external hard drives. I was denied that request, but when Brian and I started discussing this again, I've actually gone back to them since it's been 3 or 4 years. They're telling what kind of COVID money the state's got up there. They're telling me tentatively that they will provide these external hard drives to me. So the county, I'm not here tonight asking you to potentially buy some external hard drives. However, the state has really strict guidelines on what I can destroy. I've got to maintain these for a certain number of years. And as many of you know too, there's no such thing really in my line of work as a completely closed case. Cases are always being brought back up. We're having to go back and look at cases 20 and 30 years old, and we need to have access to those files. So those external hard drives, I think, might provide a short-term solution to storage. But that brings me to my next point tonight, and that is access. As you know, I'm upstairs on the 2nd floor. Every person that wants to come to our office, whether it be a victim, whether it be a witness, whether it be somebody that just wants to get their traffic ticket reduced, they have to climb 22 stairs. Many of you have been up there many times and know about those steps. We've had people trip and fall. Luckily, no one has been hurt seriously. At least 1 or 2 people a week complain to me about those steps. They're not handicapped accessible. We don't have an elevator. So if someone that is handicapped cannot come up those steps, I do remember a number of years ago when one of your colleagues, Gary Brin, was on the commission. And Gary came up to see me about something, and he had just had some minor surgery of some kind, and he was huffing and puffing when he got up there. And he was like, "Seth, you got to do something about these steps." And I said, "Commissioner Brin, no, you need to do something about these steps. I need your help." So I've been asking for this for a couple of years. The sad part about my request of what I'm asking for is the space on the 1st floor, currently where the water department and public works are. I mean, one of my favorite people in the world and one of Beaufort County's best employees, Christina, the last thing I want to do is displace her or Wes or anyone else down there. But that would solve my storage problem. It would solve my access problem. The area where people used to go in and pay the water bill would be perfect for my receptionist and another employee to deal with all the public. They would not have to come up the steps. I cannot envision any scenario where a member of the general public would have to climb those steps. If I had a meeting with a witness, we go downstairs and meet with them in a conference room. And so that would allow some of my employees to spread out. That would allow us to take care of our storage as well as our space problem. So just in conclusion, that's what I had to say tonight. I want to thank you, first of all, for the opportunity to stand before you. I thank you for your service that you give each citizen here in Beaufort County. And so I thank you for that as a citizen of Beaufort County as well. And I'm certainly available for any questions or other information I can provide.
Any questions of Seth? Okay.
Is it important that you be in close proximity to the courthouse?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And I'll just say, I'm not expecting anything to happen overnight or next month, but, I appreciate you allowing me to speak to you and taking this under consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming.
Can I speak?
Yes.
There is a possibility there might be some of that ARPA money. Is that right? ARP money. Yeah, ARP money. Available now.
Could be used for water infrastructure. Would that be water infrastructure?
Brian?
Yeah, so I think where we are working with the DA, obviously if he was not able to get external hard drives, we had offered to purchase those as well if we needed to, because obviously that helps us too. What we've immediately done, or what they're doing now, I think they're carrying it out as we speak, is to convert that smaller area, the area where they took the bills, to make it a large conference room that would help immediately solve the access issue, so that if they did have someone, they could come downstairs and meet with them in that conference room. Our goal is long-term to move our folks out of that and let the DA have that entire building. It just makes sense. With that, we've got to have some help from you as well as we look at long-term planning of where space needs are. There's some opportunities maybe out of the jail committee with their work in some additional space. There's some opportunities in other areas that we hope we may be able to move some things around, but that's going to take some additional planning. But we're trying to work to solve the access issue as quickly as we can, just so that we don't have an issue there. But ultimately, our long-term goal is to let the DA have that entire building.
We appreciate the way you have handled things, because the building is outdated. I mean, anytime can you imagine somebody going upstairs in a wheelchair?
Well, they'd have to be picked up and carried.
You've done a good job at managing and keeping us out of the federal government's or the state government's eyesight. Thank you.
You're welcome. Appreciate what you do.
Just for your information, I had a summer job at the old ASCS office on the first floor in 1965. The summer of 1965.
Well, time flies.
It sure does. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next item on here is the jail committee update. Commissioner Rebholz.
You got all trivia going real well. So, I would just want to update everybody on what the last meeting of the jail committee was. As you know, we had retained an architect, Earl Warren, to look at some concepts in terms of expanding the jail, and he has provided us with the drawings that you have here. There are two different concepts. One is for a 6,000 square foot addition, which would provide not just the Sally Port, but additional storage, mainly solving the problem with the medical issues. The other opportunity he did was took a look at the possibility of going up and creating a 3-story building, which would be another 12,000 square feet, And that could be used for a host of things, including where the Register of Deeds was moved to from her current existing office. Now you'd have to have some interim stuff there. In any case, just wanted to let you know that we're moving forward in this regard. There is a lot of other assessment that has to be done regarding this type of a plan, including what additional costs would be associated with it. You've got that list, just the beginning list actually, of those additional costs that would be integrated into this type of a solution. So this is just the first possible solution we're looking at. We have on the table still the solutions of doing nothing, or I guess the solution of a new jail. And our charge was to bring all that information together, bring it back to the board, and let them take a look at it, discuss it, and make a final decision on moving forward, or not. Sure.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
John, next time you have a meeting, I know this is just the planning stage. Put in some soft numbers.
He's going to bring soft numbers back to him and the next meeting is December 16th at 3:00. He's charged with bringing some soft numbers.
Is he going to break them down with the going up another story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
He's scheduled to come to the January Board of Commissioners meeting.
Right.
For a presentation.
I have some questions.
Sure.
This project started off as staying entirely inside the footprint of the jail. And as I recall, we were going to have about 18 new cells, and it was going to solve some of these problems. And that was going to be about $2 million.
Right.
Now, all of a sudden, we've got a project to build a building outside the building, build a sally port, build new offices for the magistrates, and some more things going on in there for $14 million.
I never heard of the 14.
I heard him say
he quoted $9 million with the 3 stories.
$9 million with the 3 stories. Well,
5.5 with just the 1 story. That was the real soft numbers. He wanted to have some more time to get more detail on that.
Well, when you bring this plan with alternatives, I think we should show on the plan staying inside of the footprint and the number of cells we get and what that will cost. And I think we should also show staying inside the footprint. There was a solution to extend maybe 10 feet on this end that we're on, the west end of the courthouse building, so that we could solve that light problem that comes and goes with which is the only problem that we really have with the jail that amounts to a hill of beans. So, we're talking here about $2 million versus $14 million.
Not 14.
Well, I heard 14. I know that 9 was.
Nobody talked about 14.
Well, we'll see how it all works out.
Okay.
We're not there yet.
Well, then don't quote stuff that it doesn't exist.
Well, it exists for me. I say that I heard it. You say you heard 9. So he said, she said. Can't you be polite enough to present that in your final proposal and let it go at that?
I can. I'll do that.
Then I think that's what you should do.
I will. I just don't quote 14 then.
I heard 14. I was sitting in the room. Right back there.
And I was sitting in the room and I never heard that. So
part of us are lying.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm willing
at
to
least
admit
one.
That.
At least one.
I'm willing to admit that.
Okay.
Wait a minute. What I would like to see presented to the board are these alternatives. I don't want to see a proposal come in for some grand scheme to build 3 stories and all of this stuff of things that the county does not need.
But I just told you that we are going to have everything from do nothing to a new jail, and they'll be all laid out. Okay? That's the plan.
Okay, so we're gonna have the do nothing proposal. We're gonna have the stay inside the footprint proposal. We're gonna have the solve the lighting proposal, and then we're gonna have the grand scheme. Is that the plans?
Yeah, that's the plan.
Okay. Well, I just want to be sure that we look at this thing comprehensively.
All I'm trying to do is update you on where we're at right now.
And what I'm trying to do is to let you know that some of this stuff is not going to fly just because somebody walks in with a plan to spend a wad of money doesn't mean that we're going to do it.
Nobody said it was going to fly.
All it means is is what he just said. You talking for good, but remember, 4 votes count.
I've been here for 26 years.
Done nothing.
I've been here for 26 years, and I have seen a lot of things come before this board that were pure pipe dreams, and I don't want to see another one come in front of us. That's the same way. 4 votes do count, Ed, but I will remind you of this. This is an election year. Don't forget that.
Excuse me now, a minute. And Hood, let me tell you.
No, we're going to.
Let me tell you this about election year. You don't threaten me with that. I mean, the only thing I can tell you is you've been here 25 years. You can't say one thing you've done but fought everything that somebody else tried to do. Now, all the man said, I think you hallucinating. That's what I think. You ain't heard no 14 million.
Unfortunately, the voters have a different opinion.
They do.
Yeah.
They do.
In defense of Hood Richardson, which needs no defense.
Right.
He's been here 26 years. He's done a lot. And in the face of you guys voting together as a caucus, a voting bloc to raise spending and raise taxes in Beaufort County for all these years, and you've been part of it, Ed, Hood has done a lot to save money in Beaufort County.
Yes, man.
Let me finish.
Go ahead, brother.
Give constituents the feeling that they are being represented. I know. I've stepped off this board. And when I was off this board, I looked at this man to represent me.
Can we move on?
Yeah, please move on, because I hate to get on Mr. Death.
We're gonna go to your next item.
Okay, everything up till now is just for information.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Not rumor.
I'm obviously the newest person on, well, no, I'm not anymore. You are. But I'm not quite sure how we run a railroad when we don't know where we're going. And we haven't decided where we're going. And I think this became clear when we just recently got this influx of money and we're trying to figure out what to do with it. And we don't have any plan. We don't have any long-term strategy for the county as to where we want to go, because we don't know where we want to go. And absent that, we make those type of stupid decisions that you're talking about.
Huh?
Okay? Absent that.
You sure have made a lot of stupid decisions, if that's what you're admitting to.
Go ahead, John.
Absent that, we don't really prioritize things. We are not able to offer to the other municipalities our plan so they know what they can do to integrate with that. And I think it's just like, as I said in the write-up, it's like Yogi Berra said, if you don't know where you're going, you might end up in the wrong place. So I would suggest that we start putting together a strategic plan as our roadmap and use it to prioritize our initiatives, to use the right resources, set our goals and department operations and projects. It's a big picture document, yeah. But it does give everybody in this organization the opportunity to have not only input, but also to see what the plan is, and they can rally around that plan. And we can make decisions in accordance with that plan. So my suggestion is we move towards that, starting with a meeting we could probably even start it in January at the 2-day meeting there, start talking about it, and then move from there. I don't know what it all takes to put together a strategic plan. I've done it in corporate world, but that's different from this world. And so there's examples out there. There's lots of examples out there. I looked at Catawba County, and they're facing the same thing we are, which is a loss of population, and they had no strategic plan to attack that issue, or as part of their strategic plan. And they formed that strategic plan and got everybody on board with it. And as a result of that, they've turned that around, the loss of population. They've created the 2,000 some odd jobs in the last 4 years. And I think we can benefit from doing the same type of thing. So my recommendation is that we start probably at the January 2-day planning meeting and then move forward to figure out how we can best develop and implement a strategic plan.
Mr. Chairman, I thought we had one. Do we not have a strategic plan?
Actually, we started the board down that path, and the board said they didn't want to go down that path a couple years ago.
Yeah, we we had somebody from the state association at the community college. Katie or Brian, can you put that on our planning session the last week in January? All right, Commissioner Richardson.
Yeah, well, let me comment on this before I get into my item. John, if you're talking about a strategic plan that involves how we go about doing certain things and not a capital spending strategic plan, then I'm willing to talk about that. I'm not willing to get into this deal where we build this and we build that, and it becomes a capital plan and everybody thinks they have to go in that direction. I'm not for that. But if you want to talk about a strategic plan from the standpoint of the benefit of the county long-term insofar as jobs for the people that are here, then I'm willing to do that.
Economic development would be certainly a keystone part of that, but I think you would not be serving the people of the county if you ignored the county assets and didn't look towards the future and say, how long are these things going to survive? And are we going to save money to be able to replace them at a time that is needed?
I'd like to say one thing. Yeah, I'd like to participate in the strategic plan as well, probably more along the lines of what Hood was talking about. If Hood is talking about find some way to streamline government and make it more effective and resourceful so that we can cut spending, cut taxes, and give the money back to where it needs to go to the hard-working taxpayers. Because not everybody gets free money. Not everybody gets 5 days off for Christmas.
Well, I think if you read the write-up then, it says, do we want to grow employment, retain our young adults, reduce the tax burden, reduce the size of government, better coordination with the municipalities, or retain the status quo? In any other combination, those are the visions you got to decide on first.
So I think we will grow if we have a more efficient government.
We'll be able to talk about that in January.
Okay, Commissioner Richardson.
Okay, next item. This item has to do with filming commissioners' meetings. I've been watching when I had a chance commissioners' meetings for the last month. About half of the time there's no sound. Sometimes there's no video. So it's a very poor job. Showing 3 commissioners that we're showing right now on the screen with one commissioner talking is very poor quality. It is a really bad show. And sure enough, if you put up enough of a bad product, people will go away from it and leave it alone. And the public seems to be doing that. So what the manager has proposed doing is spending about $15,000 for a device that we can upload commissioner meetings to. And what part of the questions that I want answered before we get further into this is who is going to be responsible for doing that? I know he wants a new employee. I'm not going to vote for that, I don't think. But we need to talk about the quality. We need to talk about how we're going to do it. We need to talk about the cost. We need to talk about target dates for completing it. And we need to talk about the quality of the film. The quality of the film, the information that's presented on the filming is terrible compared to what it was when Randy Walker was doing it. He had titles and subtitles and dates, and the public is informed. What we've got right now is somewhat of a nothing burger, and we need to do better than that. And that's the purpose of this discussion. Does this board want to improve the quality that we are showing to people on these things by purchasing this device? And how do we go about doing that? And any motion that is made in the end, I want there to be standards presented in that motion.
I'd like to make one comment as it relates to the video and the streaming. Last month at my doctor's request, I was asked to stay at home. So I decided to stream the meeting. And I want the public to be aware, and I would encourage them to watch it live as a streaming. There was only one time that it shut down. The vision, the audio, the photos and everything was absolutely perfect. You got to realize, though, that I've got fiber. I don't have Suddenlink or some of these other ones that has poor quality. But it was absolutely fine. The only time I had trouble identifying and understanding somebody is when we had two of the commissioners that had a sideshow. And then that's what jumbled it up where I could not hear. But as long as the commissioners keep their mouths shut while the other commissioner is speaking, we have no problems understanding that. That's something that you can't take out of it. As far as, you know, the captions and all that kind of stuff, the purpose is to be transparency so the people can see what happens, just like you people, just like our citizens that are sitting right here. So this garbage about the poor quality and all this stuff that is just spread is just absolutely false information. And if you don't believe it, just watch it. Just watch it. Yeah. Stream it. Don't watch it on these websites that has poor equipment and poor quality. Just watch it live using the county's equipment. Thank you. All right, you want to go to the art funding?
Well, wait just a second. Whoa. Yeah.
Yeah, I have a request that I think would immediately improve things, and that is leaving the microphones on all the time. For 20 years, I never had one issue where I had to alter the video because somebody misspoke or said something wrong. And that is the one thing. I mean, you started the meeting out this afternoon without pushing the mic.
Right.
So it's a real problem in the back there's nothing they can do when you don't get sound, you ain't got sound. And 98% of good video is audio. And if you ain't got audio, nobody's going to watch it. So I would make the recommendation that these mics stay on all the time. I know you can do it.
Well, I second your motion if it was a motion.
It'll be a motion.
Well, based on me watching it, if you got two people at the end of the table talking and their mics on, it's just going to make it worse, Randy. It's just going to make it worse. It was my mistake by not having it on at the beginning. And we should be a gentleman, and when somebody else is talking, be quiet and let that person speak. If you do that and you listen, I don't encourage you to have to take one off because of a doctor, but there is nothing at all wrong with what we're showing the public. Nothing.
Right, and I'm excited about what I'm calling County Channel 5, that if we get that going, a lot of this can be fixed because some of the poor quality is on the end of Suddenlink as they play it now, because I used to have to take a good quality and make it less of a quality so I could get it on their system. But if we go with what we're talking about, that would improve. So then you're talking about the audio, and I think keeping the mics on would help. And they'll promise to be quiet. Ooh. But the graphics are important. I mean, that's part of the story that's being told. And somebody tunes in mid-meeting, they can see the lower third is what it's called, and they can say, oh, okay, they're talking about the jail right now. I'm interested in that. I'm going to stick here and watch it. So, or if they watch segments of it, and that's how most people watched it with me, they would watch segments throughout the month. So they would know where they stopped and where they started. So it's just very important to be instructional with what we're doing here. And this channel, County Channel 5, we have a real opportunity to put up, I mean, we're talking about if they testing the wells and flushing the hydrants, you can put all that up there, and it would be a never-ending source of information. Like Suddenlink used to have. And I do believe that we will have to have somebody that runs this thing, because it's so important to get current information, because if you've got something on there that's from November, October, people will stop watching it.
Okay, we got a motion and a second on the floor.
To keep the mics on.
To open all of the mics.
Right.
Okay. All right. All those in favor of having all the mics open, raise your right hand. All those opposed?
I just want to point out to you that what's on the screen right now is totally inferior quality. You got all 7 commissioners and you can't tell who's talking.
Yes, you can.
How do you know?
Your voice.
Look, the public deserves quality. If you made a movie, if Gone with the Wind was made like this, nobody would ever have heard of it. You know, you're just trying to debase the quality. Those of you that are not good speakers are the people that are voting against this. Those of you that can't present yourself are the ones that are against this. So, you know, why don't you man up, do the right thing, and give the public a decent program for what they're paying for.
You know, when Hollywood makes movies and they're about to start a scene, first thing they say is quiet on the set. But here is never quiet on the set because Hood and Stan, they're together. Both of them are talking. If you got that mic on, everybody's going to hear everything they're saying. And it is well documented. If you will look at all of our past meetings, you will see them together, just like this, talking, and they can't whisper. I ain't gonna vote for them.
Well, look, I have a theory, and that is you can make a bigger fool out of yourself as you want to. You know, so if you get on here and talk and say things that are stupid and in of little consequence, that is a reflection on you. So how many people do you think are going to be doing that purposely? Let's all get real with what's going on here. We're producing a poor quality of program by design.
Brian?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to speak to a couple of those items. First of all, at the last meeting, the board approved us purchasing that equipment, and we've made that purchase order, and the equipment has been ordered. So I want to make sure that's clear. So we are moving in that direction, at the direction of the board. The second thing I'd like to say is, which I said it at the last meeting, and I think I said it at the meeting before, I want to thank our staff instead of talking bad about them, to tell them how much I appreciate what they do, because we do not have anyone on our staff who is dedicated that that's their only job. Melissa Beecham is sitting in the back there doing the absolute best she can, and I appreciate everything she does, and I don't appreciate the fact that that she's talked bad about when she's doing her job and doing other duties as assigned. At the last board meeting, I said to you, if you want something nice and you want more than what you've asked for, because this is exactly what this board told us you wanted. When we first put this in, you said you wanted wide shots so that exactly what the chairman said, exactly what people were sitting in the audience was seeing is what people on the TV were seeing. So if you want there to be zoom ins, if you want there to be graphics at the bottom, then you got to give me somebody who's dedicated to do that, and that's all they do. There's plenty of things for them to do, and you can have the fanciest and nicest and all the piece that you want. But for us to continue to do it the way we're doing it, it's other duties as assigned, and folks are taking time away from their other job to do this and then get criticized for it. So that's not the way to approach this. I will bring to you a communications director's position in the new budget, and I'll ask you to support it so that you can have whatever it is you want. You can have this done as fancy as you want it, but that's what it's going to take. And you know, we can either sit here and do nothing. We can continue to kick the can down the road, but you've got an opportunity to do it and do it right and be shown in a professional and manner that the public expects. I'm going to stop. Thank you.
I would support that, and if there's a committee that gets created, I'd love to be on it.
Well, I think that's a good idea, and that's a good way to go forward. Insofar as the county employee is concerned, let's understand one thing. The supervisor is who this would back up on. She's doing her job as she is directed. So she's producing the product that she's directed to produce. So, Mr. Manager, if you want to back that up on somebody, look in the mirror.
I absolutely am, and the buck stops with me, Commissioner Richardson. You're absolutely right, and I'm proud of what I'm proud of what our employees do, and I support them 100%. And I will stand up for them every time someone takes a shot at them for doing what they've been asked to do. So I'm going to provide you a plan that gets you exactly what you want, but you've said you would support, and I'm going to hope you're going to be good to your word and support it.
Brian, I would like to thank you and our staff for the job that they're doing on it. You know, you've always got people that want to take pop shots, and it's just very unprofessional as an elected position to talk negative about our employees. Negative. So How about going into?
Hold on a minute.
How about going into the art?
Commissioner Richardson was talking bad about the employees. I think he was talking bad about the direction you guys gave the employees after you fired Randy, who was a lot cheaper than what you're paying now. Now let's get real here. There's a math involved. Now you're trying to act like you're revising history and bringing it forward like we've all forgotten. No, I know what happened. Cliff knows what happened. Lord knows Randy knows what happened.
He ain't gonna quit till he get the job.
Well,
I think that's kind of
what I would recommend is that you guys have the websites and it's important for you to have it on there. Why don't you just fund whatever you need to do to make this work?
That's pretty stupid too. Stupid times two. Why don't you get real and act like you got some sense? This is a math thing. You wanted a bad product. You directed a bad product to the manager. It's not the manager's fault. He said you wanted a certain product. The board voted to get that product. He went and got that product. It's not a reflection on the employee. It's not even a reflection on the manager. It's a reflection on you.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing wrong with the product. There's nothing wrong with the product.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, the public will beg to differ.
Well, but just to so you understand this, there was only 6 people watching after the break a month ago. Only 6 people watching it. Not 10,000, not 20,000, only 6.
You got what you wanted, a sorry product. Nobody's going to watch it.
Why don't you go into the public library funding by ARP?
Well,
update.
I just want to mention this. All I'm doing is keeping this alive. The status of if ARP happens, then there will be some changes in what they're doing. If this thing happens to open up so that we can take a look at improving our public library with ARP funds, we should do it. Oh, gee, thanks. And status of MAGA sites, I think that's already been addressed tonight, so I'm satisfied with that. I'm ready to move on unless
you want to go to the sheriff office staffing?
Well, sheriff's office staffing, I don't see, is Charlie back there? Yeah. Charlie has, I would ask this question to him. Has your staffing improved or you still have these 13 vacancies?
We do have openings in all of our divisions. We do have some new hires. We've had a couple of new hires in communications. We had at least 1 new hire in the detention center, and we've had 3 new hires recently over the last couple of months. Folks that are going to be getting out of training soon on the road. So we've had some hires. We've had a couple of people leave. I've mentioned to the manager over the last month, really, that Pitt County's been hitting us hard as far as recruiting. They're paying a little bit more money, and they're really recruiting out of our detention center right now. So we've lost 2 employees recently, and as people are applying, they're applying with both agencies in Pitt County. Once they make their offer, they're going to Pitt. So we're doing the best we can with what we have. We are filling openings, and just as things go, we're going to have openings. We're going to fill them, and we'll get close to full, and then folks will leave again. But that's where we are right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. You want to go to county litigation?
Yeah, this may take a few minutes. County litigation, we have some, well, turn on the mic. We have some, there have been some suits settled lately, and involving the sheriff's department in particular. The Shepherd suit was settled as a matter of public record for $175,000 that was paid out. The lawsuit filed by, I can't think of the guy's name right now, Petrie Franks, that has been settled and sealed, is my understanding. The last report that came out from the federal court was that the payment was $400,000 and that they were still negotiating. So I think that might have been settled for more than $400,000. And I have some questions about this. Where is this money coming from? Who is paying this money? That's directed to the county attorney.
It's not me. I don't know.
Well,
our insurance company, as I understand.
Okay.
They pay the lawyer. They don't pay me. They pay the lawyer. I find out about it 6 weeks later.
Well, they talk about the insurance pool in the settlement of the Shepherd case. So, my question, and I would like for you to bring back these answers to our next meeting. What is the insurance pool? Who is in the insurance pool? Is that our insurance carrier?
My understanding, that's correct.
Now, there was a rumor that Coleman had a private insurance, liability insurance policy. And, I'd like for that question to be answered too. That would be answered, I guess, when you find out who's in the pool and how much was paid out of what part of the pool. If this money is coming from our insurance carrier, our insurance rates are going to go through the ceiling. Because the insurance companies don't insure you for free. That's based on what your liability is. And our liability is going sky high. So can you find answers to that?
You understand, I don't handle the cases. I find out about them about the same time you do.
Yeah, but you are the county attorney, right?
I can ask the question.
You would be the logical one to get these answers, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Okay, then that's what this is, a public request for you to do that. How much was paid out? What cases were sealed? What cases have been settled? Who is the insurance pool? And how much can you expect our liability insurance to go up because of this? Yes, he can. He can go right to their insurance carrier and say, look, based on what you've been paying out, how does this look?
I'll find out what I can, and I will report what I can.
Because, I get concerned when I see payments of this type, and there's a couple of other lawsuits still out there that I understand haven't been settled, the Corey Anderson death, and maybe something else. I mean, are there any other ongoing lawsuits that Beaufort County has liability for?
Not that I'm aware of.
Yeah, I think our deductible in our policy is what, $25,000? We pay the first $25,000. We need to find that out too.
I don't know.
And how much other monies, and you can find this out from the finance officer, how much other monies have been paid out to lawyers for these suits that don't necessarily appear as a part of the suit? Are we hiring other lawyers, other experts, other witnesses? Who's paying for these things? What is the expense to the county that goes through the sheriff's department for these lawsuits?
As far as I know, our company, our insurance company pays for that.
Okay, and if they can tell you how much. I have a serious problem with the sealing of these suits. It serves no public purpose for a federal judge to seal a lawsuit because the public doesn't know what's going on. Secret settlements. I've tried to dream up what is the advantage in sealing a lawsuit. And when a public official is involved, and I can't find an advantage. The advantage goes to the public official because he gets to cover up his bad behavior. That's all it does. So we need as commissioners information on this because we pay his insurance premium. So we have a dog in the fight.
Do you know if there's separate insurance? Because this says NCACC.
North Carolina Association of County Commissioners.
Brian, if I remember correctly, the state association in that pool, we have somewhere around 60 or 70 counties that are not participating. Does that sound right?
That sounds right. I'm not sure exactly what the number is, but it's a pool, and we are a member of the liability pool and the workers' compensation pool, and then you have your health insurance through the state of North Carolina.
Well, that brings up another point. Since we are a member of an insurance pool, there are insurance laws in North Carolina. Don't these people file an annual report with the Secretary of, Mike Causey? Don't they file an annual report with Mike Causey? Would you please try to get that report? They would have to say in that report what their payouts were and what their extreme liabilities were, where they had to pay unusual amounts unanticipatedly. But it's one thing to pay a $25,000 claim. It's another thing to pay a $400,000 plus claim. I know that the lawsuit for Shepherd is public. I don't know whether the other lawsuit has been sealed or not. But whatever legal documents that can be put up about that, I would like to see them. And that is the settlement, the notation of the settlement, whatever it is. It may only be one sheet of paper signed by a judge, but I would like to see the details. I know in the Shepherd lawsuit, there were some extenuating circumstances, and the judge became quite irritated with Sheriff Coleman. And that's one of the reasons that suit was not sealed, because he wanted the public to know about some behavior that really wasn't acceptable. So that's all I have on that.
Okay, since we have Representative Keith Kidwell here, I just sent him a text. We're going to allow you to come up now for your discussion. Since you were not here earlier, you were doing your town hall.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I had a town hall at the community college to discuss the budget and some of the things we were able to accomplish in Raleigh this year. I appreciate the opportunity to do likewise here. I'll just quickly go through some of the highlights. If you have questions, I'll be glad to address those as much as possible. What I really want to hit here is obviously going to be Beaufort County. Working with several members of the economic development, a lot of businesses in the area, the airport authority, some of the commissioners, and members of the public, we put together quite a package for Beaufort County to bring some jobs into the area and to give some relief to get necessary projects done without an additional expense to the taxpayers. So the reason a lot of this is not any additional expense to the taxpayers, not full enough to believe that just because it's federal dollars, it's not additional expense, but it's COVID money that was already directed to North Carolina. I just made sure that we got some of it to Beaufort County. So we'll start with what we have going on there. We're going to have $20 million that will be allocated to the airport and businesses that will co-locate or closely locate to the airport, expanding the runway to allow us to land larger aircraft. We'll have computer landing systems as well as lighted runways so that we can bring in aircraft in the evening, bring them in on bad weather. The reason we're doing that partly is to expand as we finish the Highway 17 project, which, by the way, I'll be checking with the construction process on that tomorrow to make sure that's still on target. We're supposed to start letting that out this month. We'll have Highway 17 running right near the airport. We'll be able to take freight in and out and bring that directly to the trucks and start moving that up and down the highways and going up to Norfolk, down to Wilmington, that type of stuff. We're also going to have the ability to bring in agricultural planes. They'll be able to refuel and refill their tanks for crop dusting, things of that nature. And at the airport, it's going to bring in additional hangars, which we have people lined up waiting to take those hangars. So we know that's going to happen. We'll be facilitating the helicopter repair for Vidant Beaufort and Vidant Greenville. Any of the helicopters flown up and down all throughout eastern North Carolina will be serviced at the facility there. We do have a small repair facility. It's not big enough to handle everything. We plan on bringing that in. We have two companies who are going to be new to the area that will be moving in. There'll be announcements on that coming up in the future. We have a few other companies currently in the area that will relocate to the new facilities that will be out at the airport. This is going to breed an estimate, I believe, was 650 jobs over the next several years that we'll be bringing into eastern North Carolina, not just the 20 million, but everything that we're bringing into the area. So there's going to be more to come on that as we move forward and get all the details worked out. Town of Bath is going to get $5 million for their sewer system. That was, you probably know the story behind that, but I'm just going to run through it very quickly. Bath had put in to expand their current spray fields, and they got the approval from the state, went and spent, I believe it was about $1 million to do that. And then the state came back and they were like, psych, we're not really going to give you the permits. We won't permit that property after they had already approved it. They told them their only option was going to be to connect either Belhaven or Bath sewer system, to Belhaven or Washington sewer system. And the cheaper of those two routes was to connect to Washington at $5 million. That burden on the taxpayers of Bath would have been untenable. Probably would have put the town in a situation that would have never happened, and this is going to allow the town to start building again. They can put houses in, they can add new businesses as they see fit with the new system. $4.1 million coming to Beaufort County Community College for new construction and rehabilitating existing facilities. $2.5 million going to Beaufort Community College to establish a satellite campus in Aurora. Reason that we're looking at doing that, we've got a lot of things happening in Aurora. I'm going to give you a press release, or not a press release, but an announcement here today, as soon as I get done with the budget summary, on what's going on down in Aurora. Some big things happening there, believe it or not. So the campus in Aurora is going to help to retrain the new staff we're going to need down at Nutrien, because Nutrien's people are aging out. They have to currently drive all the way up to Beaufort Community College and back down. It costs a lot of time, energy, expense to do that. And putting the college down there is going to help our largest employer and largest taxpayer. And the ROI is definitely going to be there where we'll see a return of that. Public safety grants to the town of Chocowinity in the amount of $360,000 plus for new emergency vehicles, so they can replace those vehicles. And this money, again, COVID money. So it was money that was already coming to the state. We just got it allocated as we needed it here in this area. And $121,000 goes to Washington High School for the repairs and renovations of the soccer fields. Also locally, $215 million to replace the Brody School of Medicine. We'll be able to increase the number of doctors we educate in that facility. I believe I was told 40% increase in the capacity for education at that facility. So that's going to be something else we'll see a good return. We definitely need more doctors in the area. $2 million to Oyster beds and such in the Sound. Oysters clean the water. Oysters bring in money, and some people like to eat them. I don't, but that's okay. They're just the little cleaners of the bad water. So we're very happy to see that we're able to put some more money into that. And as you all know, there's about $1 billion coming into North Carolina, which I believe you have already seen some benefit in for broadband expansion. It is targeted at rural areas. So if you're a big city, Wake, Raleigh, you're not getting this money. This is strictly to the rural areas to have them be able to increase the broadband capacity. Raises for teachers, I believe it was 5.5% teachers raises, 7% for correctional officers, detention center staff, things like that, getting more money. Getting rid of the $50 a day the teachers had to pay if they took a day off. That was insane. I don't understand that. The master's pay is back for teachers, and the school employees who are non-certified staff are getting a minimum wage increase to $13 and then $15 per hour over the next 2 years, respectively. Tax cuts across the board. Our tax rate's going to drop down to 3.99% over the next several years, working on phasing out the corporate tax. Why? Corporations don't pay tax. They charge their expenses off to the people that they sell their products to. Therefore, it makes it cost more money. We make ourselves more business friendly. We bring more business into North Carolina by cutting the corporate taxes. So quick overview of it. There's a lot more in the tax. There's individual tax breaks. The standard deductions are going to be higher. The exemptions for children are going to be higher. We're revamping the franchise tax for small businesses so that they don't have the triple taxation that we actually face right now. And after I get done with this next session, I'll stand for whatever questions. Been working with Nutrien directly over the last year, or probably a little bit more than that, in what we can do to revitalize Aurora. As you're well aware, Aurora has become a dying community. The people are moving out. The children don't stay when they graduate school. They head off to other areas because, we don't even have a grocery store in Aurora. We have the owner of the grocery facility down there is working on renovating that. We're romancing with several different grocers to bring a grocery store back into Aurora. Just today, Nutrien sent me an announcement that they have accepted some of the proposals we've worked on with them. They're going to donate an additional 26 acres to the Aurora Industrial Park. We'll be able to house more businesses down there. We have 2 businesses that want to put their corporate headquarters down at that location, and this is going to give us more room. I talked to the company that Pitt County did not want to do business with. You may remember about 6 weeks ago, Pitt County kind of kicked this computer company to the curb. As soon as I saw that on the news, the next morning I had my staff get the president of that company on the phone. We are currently working with them to bring them into either Chocowinity Industrial Park or possibly the Aurora Industrial Park with the availability of the additional 26 acres now, because they need about 20 acres. All right, so that's going to work out well. I've worked with Duke Energy to make sure that they're able to provide the energy. They said, you put it in, we'll get power to them. So we're going to make that happen over the next several months is what I'm hopeful. Nutrien has committed to donate $100,000 to provide training equipment to the Beaufort County Community College Annex. It will be put down in Aurora. So that'll be coming, not taxpayer money, not school money, coming straight from Nutrien to help us out with that. The town of Aurora has had an option on what's called Bailey's Creek to purchase for $500,000. Nutrien has agreed to donate that property as long as it is used for affordable housing. It's not going to be a Cypress Landing. It's not going to be a fancy place. It's going to be for the people who can work at Nutrien to be able to buy affordable housing and live near their job. Bring the grocery store, bring the jobs, bring the college. We've revitalized all of Aurora, and that's going to be good for the county and the public in general. I've also worked with Nutrien to increase their spending with our local vendors. They have committed to do that. They're going to do every effort they can to make sure that our vendors locally have the opportunities to bid on and work on jobs, not necessarily always on a price parity, but on a value. Because there is a value in being able to use our local vendors. They can get their product much more quickly, more responsively. They can get somebody out there in the middle of the night to take care of a problem if they have a breakdown, and we're working with them. They have made a commitment to do that. They've also, God bless you, they've also committed to talking to the vendors that are currently, the contractors that are currently on their property, and tell them that they're fine if they want to move off-site, because that's one of the concerns the vendors had, is that, we're going to be in trouble with Nutrien if we move off-site. Nutrien wants to let them know, and they will do so very publicly, that it is okay to move off-site. With that, I stand for any questions.
The computer company in Aurora, is that going to be hardware? Computers hardware?
It is hardware.
Wow.
The company, it was public information, so I can tell you the company is called Compute North, and they are a data mining company and a cloud storage. Okay. So it's about 20 jobs. They would place in modular servers, and they hook those up to broadband, and they need a lot of power. So plus they pay property taxes on said servers. Yeah. Which are very expensive.
Data mining.
Data mining.
Are they working for the federal government? Or?
I don't know who they work for, but they pay taxes.
Yeah. Remarkable.
Yeah. I think the main part of their stuff is actually Bitcoin mining. So, yeah. So, there's big money in that, in case you haven't heard.
Yeah, for now.
The group you talked about possibly at Chocowinity,
yes,
they were listening to what they were proposing for Pitt County. Their property tax was going to be over $1 million a year if they put that full facility in Greenville. Are they talking about that full facility here?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yep.
And you got all they got to have is power.
They have to have power and broadband.
Right. Okay.
So they don't even need the Highway 17 and all that stuff. It's about 20 jobs. It's computers.
Bully for you if you can get that pulled off.
I'm doing my best. I'll keep you posted.
But broadband is number 2 behind power, or in front of power.
Well, you'd have to have both.
Both.
Yeah, you can't make sausage without the meat and the skin. So you got to have them both.
Anybody else? Thank you very much, Keith.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Nice have a good one.
All good news.
Good news. All right, Hood, we're back to your agenda.
Okay, the next item on my agenda is the county, and this is a discussion item, that we should consider filing amicus curiae briefs, friend of the court briefs in some of these federal lawsuits that the county should consider filing. Because I'll start over again. The county should consider filing amicus curiae, friend of the court, lawsuits in some of these lawsuits that are going on, especially involving illegal immigration and the openness of the border and the fact that they're taking these immigrants that we don't know who they are, where they're from, what diseases they've got, can't speak English, most of them, and flying them all over the United States and planting them in our communities. Beaufort County, if Beaufort County were to consider doing this, we would, of course, need a lawyer that can practice in front of a federal court, and it would add some momentum to some of these lawsuits. And if the county started doing it, there might be other counties that would be willing to do the same thing. The whole thing, one of the reasons that we have such a disaster on our border today is that everybody is sitting on their hands. Everybody says we can't do anything. But Texas has been overrun to the point that they have been forced to do something. In 5 years, you're going to change the whole makeup of the United States of America with the people that are coming in, because they all are coming because of the fact that the liberal Democrats want them in here so that they can have those votes one way or another. They want the cheap labor. It's all coming for reasons that are promulgated by communists as opposed to capitalists. And if we don't start defending ourselves, there's going to be nobody left to defend us. So what do y'all think about this?
Okay. I think that's a good plan, because whatever money we spend now is money that we will save later. The cost for illegal immigrants living in our community, and we paying Medicaid, educating the children, crime going up. Right now, COVID, it's estimated around 20% of all these people that are flying into the heartland in the dead of night have COVID. And it just seems like a real conflict for me, a hypocritical conflict that you have mask mandates and you're importing COVID into America. I mean, it just makes no sense. So either we defend the republic now as a constitutional republic, and we're seeing that the Biden-Harris administration are losing in court now, but we defend it at every point and every turn. And we're going to lose this republic in 20 years. It's gone. And you won't get it back. It will be the great comedy of human history that this great nation went down in so short a period of time. It's led by this all-inclusive, everybody can live here, nobody has any responsibility, let's just be woke, guys. It's got to end. And I appreciate you bringing that forward, Hood.
Anyone else with any comments? If not, we'll let Stan continue.
You want to make a motion there? No, I don't want to make a motion tonight. I want you to think about it. I'll bring it back next month because I'd be interested to hear what the county attorney has to say about it.
The term is amicus brief, not Americans.
So it's misspelled in here.
It's a whole different word.
Yeah, I'm well aware of how to spell it. Okay. It's misspelled in here.
Right.
Okay, Stan.
Well, wait a minute. I'd be willing to hear what the county attorney's opinion on this is.
Well, you said something about finding a place for an amicus brief. You've got to find a lawsuit. A brief supports a position when something is pending before a judge in court. It's not a separate item. So you've got to connect with somebody who is working, you say, brief support lawsuits against illegal immigration and transportation of illegal immigrants inside the U.S. border. I don't think there's anything like that going on in Beaufort County. I mean, that's how are you going to do that?
Well, the filing a friend of the court doesn't require that you have to have the bad act going on in your county. I know how amicus briefs work. You attach to a lawsuit, federal lawsuit anywhere in the United States, it doesn't matter. Yes, we would have to do some searches to select those lawsuits, or maybe we see those lawsuits and say that's something we should file a brief on. I don't see it going on in Beaufort County, but I have Hispanic friends who tell me that some of these really bad Mexican gangs are here in the county. So, just because we don't see it doesn't mean it's not here. And we have these enclaves that have been created, like the Muslim enclave in Wisconsin that was created by the Obama administration. They just flew enough Muslims in to repopulate the whole thing. Now, we need to make sure the same thing is not happening in the United States. If you've got 2 or 3 million people crossing the border every year in the United States, they are going somewhere. They are causing problems somewhere.
It's more like about 5 to 6 million, including the gotaways.
I got you, but we don't need to sit back and wait for this problem to show up on our door before we start doing something about it. I don't want to vote on this tonight. I'll bring it back next month. We'll talk about it some more.
All right, Stan. Good.
Okay. In defense of defending our sovereign southern border, the purpose of this resolution is to register with all responsible parties our great displeasure regarding the southern border left wide open at a great current and future cost to our constituents. Understanding that all politics is local, I offer this resolution to effect a far better and more responsibly proper governing perspective. I will not read this revised resolution regarding this most serious situation, but I will, however, offer this abridged perspective of the resolution as per article, but with less context, and I will keep it brief. Okay. In defense of defending our sovereign southern border. First article, U.S. policy should become consistent for all borders, north and south. Second article, the Trump administration did defend the southern border, even with a belligerent Congress cutting funding for the defense of that southern border. Third article, the Biden-Harris administration did create a plethora of incentives to circumvent the enforcement of the southern border in favor of their preferred dramatic demographic upheaval in our republic going forward. Hood just spoke to that. Fourth article, the Biden-Harris administration is importing COVID via illegal immigrants into our heartland at an excessive rate. Fifth article, the Biden-Harris administration is importing, the Biden-Harris administration has created a spurious relationship with the narcotics and human trafficking cartels of Mexico to achieve their desired resettlement plan. It may not be intentional, but it is happening. They are working hand in glove. The border states should have the privilege to defend their borders with Mexico and should have our qualified support for that, their constitutional right to do so. We should recognize that a politically expedient Susel award is in the works for an estimated $400 million of our citizens' money to so-called described separated illegals, and we find that wrongful. The end result of the resettlement plan is that it will eventually cost local taxpayers on all levels. Let it be resolved that we are aware of the purpose of the resettlement plan, and we ask for constitutional remedy to protect our local constituents. Hood just mentioned that. It's gonna have to come through proper politics and the courts, and it's got to end as soon as possible. And I offer that to the commissioners now.
That's a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
That's a motion.
Yeah, it can be a second.
All right, we got a second. Randy?
Yeah, and I told you I was going to chime in on this, Stan, but for your 2 terms as commissioner, you've always brought these resolutions, and you have a terrible track record of getting them through. And I think the menu that you cook this thing up with, you just add a little bit too much hot sauce. And you give these guys a reason for them not voting for it. And I say, let's simplify this thing and make them have to vote for it. And if you said simply, let's be for strong borders, and basically that's what it is we want, shame on them if they don't vote for that. But the way you have it, it gets so complex that the folks watching at home have a hard time understanding a lot of what you're saying. But if you just simply say we're for a strong border, they get it. And if they vote against it, then shame on them. So I'm just asking you to maybe simplify that super simple and see what happens.
Anybody else have any comments before we take a go ahead?
Yeah. Okay.
I would tend to agree with Randy because you said you're going to send this to all responsible parties. That's going to include a lot of people that you're slamming in here.
Well, yeah.
Okay. And you know what that's going to end up as?
You're going to get angry?
No, there's going to set circular basket. That's what it's going to end up in. And you're not going to get anywhere with it.
Well, okay. You're asking me to respond. Okay. First, Randy, I've been up here for 6 terms. I have written these resolutions, but if you write a resolution, you've got to be resolved to specific information. Just specifically saying, well, open borders are bad. Responsible borders is good. And I agree, that would be great, but that's not what's going to work. You've got to have specific information. Now, I would be agreeable to work with some of the members of this board to hone out a resolution that speaks to all the resolute points that we're going to have to make. Pretty much like what Hood was talking about. I mean, I doubt if this board's going to want to go with what Hood's talking about, but what Hood is talking about is very important and it would be a piece of this resolution as well. I mean, just to try to get them to say yes or no, that's not my purpose. My purpose is to show that there is a problem, speak to it specifically, and yes, people do read these. I put these on my Beaufort County Now. I get a lot of views, and this, right, as Frankie said, we might not get as many people now watching, and that is just for show. The real information is online where you can read it word for word, and if you've got the sense to understand it, so be it. But to dumb it down to a point that it will have no power whatsoever when you send it to the responsible parties, which you have to. You have got. It's not that you're afraid to anger people. What you want is for others to get the same resolve, and to be ready to move to this pitched battle to save the republic. See, I find that important. I'm not trying to get a political hit here. I'm just trying to do some good. Because that's what I'm up here for the last 6 terms.
But it gets voted down and nothing happens.
It doesn't matter. The resolution is written. It gets out there. People understand it. They know it. Eventually, there will be political change, even in Beaufort County, with our weird way we elect commissioners.
Call the question. Okay, we're ready to vote. All those in favor of this great resolution about the southern border, the editorial, please raise your right hand.
Yeah.
Those opposed?
All right. That's fine.
Okay. Does any commissioner want to use 2 minutes?
No, I do. I want to remind this board, for those of you who are offended because you have to come to meetings and debate things, this is a deliberative body. This body is not run by any one person. Actually, the chairman's only authority under the state law is to conduct an orderly meeting. And that means everybody gets to speak. That means time is not unduly rationed. That means that he doesn't take offense because somebody is taking him on one of his issues. And this applies to every other member of this board. If you don't have thick enough skin to come to this meeting and debate an issue and take your licks, then you don't need to be here. You need to resign and let somebody else take your place.
Well, you're gonna have that opportunity, Hood, and I expect you to do just like you've been doing in the past. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.